And we are live. Here we go. It takes a second for it to catch up. I'm watching the computer. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing today?
Hello,
Hi.
everyone. They can't hear me.
Good morning, Glenda. Yes, we can hear. In
Oh,
fact, it's not. Can you guys? Good morning, Bobby. Hey, Samantha. Samantha, can you guys see us yet? It's not looking on. Here it comes. There we go. There we go. And let's do. Glenda, go ahead and say something.
hello, everyone.
Perfect. Your sound is great. All right, I'm going to turn the sound down on this. Excuse me. And we are ready. Hi. Hey everybody. We are here this morning with Glenda, Creative Grandma, and we are so excited that you are able to join us today. Just a little housekeeping. I want to let you guys know. Hey, Dinky Craft. Hi, Frog. Michelle. I want to let you guys know that if you see me looking off to the side, I am not ignoring our honored guest. I have my tablet off to the side and I can see the comments much better over there. So that's why I keep glancing off to the side. And if I need to see something up close, then I will be down here like this because I can't see it on the computer. And I know some people were concerned that I was ignoring my guest, and I would never, ever do that. Um, we'll say hi to people this morning, but once we get going, our focus is on our guests. So I'll wave at you guys, but I won't stop or interrupt to say hi to new people coming in. So good morning, Glenda.
Good morning, Robin.
Glenda and I were both concerned that we would be able to get in here and get this thing figured out because neither one of us are very techy. But we did it. We
Yes,
did it. Thank goodness for grandsons, right?
yes, my grandson had to come help me the last 2 days. I just been having a terrible time.
Oh, that is the way it goes all the time. And I hope my light is going. Yeah, it looks pretty okay. As I was setting up this morning, y'all know Max. He likes to be the star of the show, and he was up here trying to get in my lap, and I was telling him he needed to move to the other side, and he jumped off the couch, knocked over the computer, broke my light, and so I'm scrambling around trying to. I have gotten used to that light. I didn't have it for very long, but I have really gotten used to it, and I had to remember how I set things up before I had that ring light. So Mister's working on it right now. He might even get it fixed.
You have a
Oh,
plug-in?
yep, I do have a plug-in right here. Let's see here. There we go. And oh, I think he fixed it. There we go. And yes! Yay! All right, so I've got my light back. That's the other reason I can't see the computer. When you've got the ring light looking on you, it makes the computer even darker. Yeah, get your 13-year-old daughter to help. That's exactly right. How do we manage any of this stuff without grandkids? And I don't have any grandkids nearby to help with these things, so gotta figure it all out.
Mine lives right next door.
Oh, that's perfect. That is perfect.
For you.
So,
not them.
Glenda, good morning again. Thank you so very much for coming and joining us today. I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are, and for you to take time out of your busy signal, your your busy schedule to come and visit with us it means so very much to me.
Well, I haven't had a live in forever, and it's just fun to, get to know people and
Mhm.
everyone. And some of my subscribers, I hope, are here. And I just want to say hello to everyone who come to our live today. Very much appreciated.
And some of your subscribers popped into our bingo last night. We saw some new names and faces in there, and I think they were having a good time. A few of them mentioned that they had fun, and I hope that they'll join us again. We do bingo every Monday, and I can't wait to see you there every Monday night. So
I
you're
tried so hard last night, and I was so mad. It's like, well, people leave me alone so I can go do something fun.
isn't that the truth?
family.
Well, and for you, it is 7 o'clock. So that's getting on a little bit late. And I understand that. I always feel so bad. It's hard to find a time to do any of these activities that works for everyone because of all the different time zones. In fact, I had a friend say, "Why do you do these so early?" I go, "Well, because for my guests, it's 10, 11, 12 o'clock already." And, and
This
she said,
is
"Oh, I
8
didn't think
o'clock
about
where
that."
you are, right?
Hmm.
8 where
Yep.
you are. It's 11 o'clock where I am. So that's like a 3-hour difference.
Yeah. And in Alaska, it's earlier, and I forget about that too. It's an hour earlier there. So for
Oh,
the folks up in, so it's 7 in the
what?
morning there.
Well, what's Alaska time considered? What?
Boy, I don't even know. I just know Alaska.
I didn't
Um,
know that.
yep, I didn't
Yeah, I
either
learned something new
until
already.
this spring when we took our Alaska cruise. Oh, actually, when I learned it, it was Miss Setta. Miss Setta was a guest on my show, and I'm like, "You're Pacific," and she's like, "Nope, we're an hour before you." And I'm like, "Oh," so then we bumped it down a bit so she didn't have to do it at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. We with the YouTube, I think we kind of forget that everybody has different times. We're just
Yeah.
all here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, so we try to make it so that it's a decent time for everybody. Thank you so much, Natural Creations. Yes, on the off chance, I can't imagine that none of you are not already subscribed to Glenda, but please, please, please go over there and subscribe to Glenda. So Glenda, how did you decide to start a YouTube channel?
My grandson,
Yep.
because I was struggling, and a lot of times when we get older, our parents are getting older.
Hmm.
And a long time ago, when my mom got lung cancer, I decided to quit my job, not have a career, and focus on helping her because it was years and years of health care for her. And
Hmm.
then it just turned into one family member after another needing, 24/7 care.
Hmm.
And then 6 years ago, when she got the ovarian cancer, I was just at my wit's end. How am I going to make a living? And how do you choose between family and paying your bills?
Exactly.
And my family always come first. I don't care if I had to live in a gutter out in the street. My family always come first. And my grandson said, "Graham, why don't you start a YouTube channel?" And I was designing for Coats and Clarks way back. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, way back. And and over time, people change in the industry. And
Hmm.
then when they get new people in, the relationship isn't quite the same. And then you have to change. And then I was a little tired of all the changes, and you have to do it this way. And I'll make a design, and then they want it remade in different colors. And I thought, okay, I just can't do it.
Hmm.
I want to do my own thing. And it was just a godsend. I mean, if my grandson wouldn't have helped me get started, I'd probably still be struggling on how do I take care of my mom and how
Hmm.
do I pay my bills. So, when I first started to learn how to design, I was young. I had 3 kids. It's like, how do I make some income from home while I'm raising my children? And then I just started looking at crochet magazines, looking for any type of contest, and I started entering contests. And then I was making blankets, and then Crochet Fantasy, that has been out of publication for a long time. So you can tell
Hmm.
how long ago it
Hmm.
was. But I got in with the editors at Crochet Fantasy, did a lot of designs. You'll see them in past issues. I think it was back in the 80s. So that was a long time ago.
That's been a couple days, yeah.
Yeah, and then I had a column called Afghan Artistry. That's where I focused on the Tunisian crochet, putting like photos on top of the Tunisian blankets. So they give me a column. And then when that magazine kind of like went out of business, then I was kind of lost, like you're so
Hmm.
used to doing stuff. And then when things change, you just got to get creative and think of a new way to go to the next step. So that's what got me started, you know the need to make an
Hmm.
income.
Hmm.
And you can do that on YouTube, but it takes a lot of discipline. And it's almost, I want to say, you're doing something fun that you love, but it's a lot of work. And sometimes I don't
Oh,
think
no.
a lot of people realize
Mhm.
how much time goes into a project. And I'm my own worst enemy because I'd fire myself if I was my boss because I push myself. And it's like, I keep trying to get designs done and then I get mad when it's taken too long. It's like, I should have had this done. And then life gets in the way, family,
Mhm.
friends, okay, leave me alone tomorrow. I'm going to
Yeah. Well,
try.
and you're used to working on deadlines too with magazines and stuff. You've got to get those designs out. Where now, and that probably helps you in some ways and hinders you in some ways.
Yeah, because well, that's like the snowman blanket I was designing. I don't know if you've seen it
I did. And in
for
fact, I was going to ask you about that.
yeah, I started designing that and I thought, oh, I have plenty of time. So I was filming every step and it was taking so long. I mean, it's an easy pattern the way I have it set
Mhm.
up, but the time it was taking to show how to put the different amounts of color across your hook and then take them off. And I thought, I'll never get this blanket done on time for my deadline if I try to film this. So I had to make the hard decision of I'm not going to be able to do the tutorial for that blanket. So it kind of like, oh, I hated that. I hate to show a design and then you can't do the tutorial. I may be able to do it later. I just have to think of I don't know how to explain it. It's just hard because you have to I took the design and I put it in 3 different steps. I made it to where it was one color, the snowman was in the center, and then the background color was on both sides. So you just stitch the whole thing up with 3
Mhm.
colors. Because if you used all the colors in the design, you're going to have all these yarn
All
balls
the
attached.
bobbins. Hmm.
So I did it simple, use, 2 colors, one on each side and one in the middle. And then
Hmm.
after you do that, then you just go around the edge and cross stitch the outline of the snowman and then go in
Yeah.
and put that in. So I made it easy. It's just time consuming to do a video like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that was frustrating because I lost so much time filming what I did for nothing, you know?
Well, and and I have seen a lot of tutorials where they're not showing the entire product, just a few of the steps. This is a tricky part. This is a tricky part. And maybe that's one way that you can accomplish some of those bigger projects like that.
Yeah, I thought about going because I think I got to row 12 and I thought, well, maybe I'll show the first 12 rows and say this, I'm going to get you started.
It's hard. It's hard when you're trying to figure out everything that is involved in
Yeah.
producing something and making it a viable product. And I got to be honest, I have watched you forever, Glenda. I did not know you had an Etsy store. I had no idea.
Yeah, well, I have my website with my patterns on my website, but sometimes people get confused on the website. So then I
Mhm,
thought a lot of people are used to Etsy. So I try to put my patterns on both locations for the people who like Etsy and the
mhm.
people who want to go to the website. Now,
Oh,
the website I set up because I have all my Stitch of the Week patterns there for free.
mhm,
So anybody that watches a Stitch of the Week tutorial, they can go download every one of those Stitch of the Week patterns for free. They just go to our website, no, I don't know what it is. It's creative. My daughter says don't use the www, so I don't know. It's creativegrandma.net. And you just hit Stitch of the Week. It shows you all the stitches, and they just click on the stitch they want, and they can download it free right to their computer. And I try to offer that service because I know a lot of people, they'll say, oh, I need to make a baby blanket for maybe Sue. She's having a baby
mhm,
next month. What stitch do I want to use? And
mhm.
that's where it's helpful for everyone to be able to go scroll down through those stitch, print them
Yeah.
all out. I mean, get yourself a binder and make yourself a little stitch notebook. Somebody's a ham there.
My assistant, if this camera is on, he has to be up here. And you're the one that caused all the trouble this morning. Yeah, breaking everything.
I
It's
break my own stuff. I trip over my wires. I knock
Oh,
my
I know. I do that all the time.
I already broke one camcorder and my husband says, why don't you set this up? I said, because I have to move my table
You
around the
move it all
room.
the time. Yeah, all
Yeah.
the time.
yeah, too many cords.
Yep. I I
But
know. I have I did use one of your stitch of the weeks. I had to make I wanted to make a little lap gan for a friend of mine who got cancer, and I just wanted something for her to use during chemo, and not a big old thing, and I needed it quick.
yeah,
Because we were also that's when we were the week we were moving from Texas to back home, and so it needed to be easy but pretty. And I did. I went through your stuff. I'm like, that one right there. It's pretty. It'll show the color off. I had already had my yarn that I was going to use, so that was a big, big help. Cannot be kissing on me. Oh my goodness, you're such a ham. He is something else. He is
yeah.
something else. For a long, long time, he wouldn't get up here. I think the lights kind of threw him, and but he wants to know what's going on, and he wants to be. What he wants is for me to get off of his couch. That's the real thing.
Oh,
Yeah, typical man loving on me to get his own way.
yeah.
So what? Yeah, I was just really surprised when I was as popping through your Etsy and at how many patterns you had in there.
I Yeah, I'm trying to get some patterns done. And I said to my grandson, I said, when I first started my channel, I was banging them out one right after another because I had a lot to do. I said, now it just seems like I'm just struggling to get the things made. And the one thing I hate is I have a couple designs that, boy, when I start them and I'm having a problem with them, I get mad and throw them in the corner. So I've been
Time out.
trying to get those projects back out and say, okay, take the time, figure it out. It's almost done.
Yeah.
But no, I go and switch to something else. And then I start over. And I started a poncho because I do this. It's like a granny stitch, teardrop granny stitch. And I started the
Ooh.
poncho. I thought, no, I want 2 points on the poncho. So I started it and I thought, no, I don't look like how that looks because I'm a big woman. And
Me
I'm like
too.
2, 3X, depending on who makes the garment.
Right.
And I didn't like how it looked. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put 4 corners on it, make a 4-corner poncho. So then I made it. I thought, oh my gosh, that looks terrible. So then I ripped that out. And now I'm back to where I seen another yarn and I got a yarn order. And I thought, oh, I like this yarn better. So I think I'll make it out of this yarn. And it's slap myself, just get the yarn and make.
I cannot tell you how happy that makes me. And I'm sure some of these folks too, because we have the exact same struggles. And we just always assume that people like you, everything just comes natural and perfect
Oh,
and wonderful. And this makes me very happy. I can't tell you how many times I have ripped things out and thrown it in the corner. And then a month later, all right, let's look at it. Let's see what we're doing here.
my
I
husband.
struggle. I have been reading patterns and I don't even remember. I don't even remember learning how to read a pattern. So when my grandma taught me to crochet, it must have just been inbred into that process because I don't remember a time of ever not being able to read a pattern. But I struggle with the way patterns are written sometimes. And that,
The pattern writing has changed
yes.
because I noticed that because I just had a leaflet published and I wrote it the way I write an instruction. When I was taught by Crochet Fantasy how to make sure my instructions are right, they always told me, assume the person knows nothing.
Right.
And now when they published that leaflet, I didn't even know my own instructions. I thought,
Wow.
what the heck are they talking about? They changed everything to like it's shorthand. Well, people would rather have the longer instructions with specific detailed information. And I'll tell you, even sometimes I'll go on a website and I'll see a pattern and it's like, what? And I struggle sometimes with certain patterns because the way they're writing them. And now with YouTube, the other problem is a lot of people, there's people who's writing patterns that don't know how to write patterns. And they, and so my suggestion is if you want to buy a pattern either from myself or any other YouTube channel, see if they have a free pattern get the free pattern and see if you can read it and see how that pattern is written, to see if you can understand how they're writing a pattern. That way you're not going to be disappointed if you're actually spending money on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And I've bought a lot of patterns that I'm like, I have no idea what they want me to do. And some of them aren't little designers. I've got this pattern that I'm working on from Annie's right now. I especially the specialty stitches, I have no idea what they want me to do. And I've been doing this for over 50 years. And if it wasn't for a video, and even when I'm comparing the video to how it's written, I'm like, this is not what this thing says to do. And I think in some respects, I think, and I was just talking about this. In fact, I think it was one of my Finish It Friday videos. I was just saying how, because I have worked with written patterns for so many years, I want to have a written pattern in front of me. I want to be able to follow it. I want to be able to keep track of what I'm doing. You know, you set something down and go back a week later, I don't remember what that stitch is.
Yeah.
And because I'm using so many different stitches than I used to before. And I want to be able to make little notes in here. You know, this means pick it up at the 2 rows below or whatever. But then with YouTube and all the tutorials, I think we're getting spoiled and we're expecting everybody to give us tutorials on everything.
Yeah.
And with the tutorials, I can't make notes. And I was just saying that with some of my it was with this beautiful shawl that I'm making that Spring, the fiber enthusiast, has created. Gorgeous shawl, beautiful tutorial. But I have to find my place and rewind it so I can watch what she's doing here, and then rewind it so I know what I'm supposed to be doing over there. And either that or I'm completely writing out, and I've done that before, completely writing out the pattern that is only in a tutorial form.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, for me, I'm taking the best of both worlds and combining them together. With YouTube, I think we're getting a tremendous number of new crafters that never had a chance to try things before. And that's amazing. But I think they're really missing out by not knowing how to read patterns.
Yeah. I thought about doing a tutorial on that. I was just trying to figure out how I would do it. Because I'm like you. I was sitting there thinking the other day, how did I ever learn how to read a pattern?
Yeah.
But I think what happens is when you start crocheting, you're learning the stitches, you're learning the terminology. And sometimes if you pick up a pattern, it might just come naturally to you if you know your stitches.
Maybe. And that could very well be. Somebody asked about Spring's. This is the shawl that Spring is doing. And it's a crochet along. And she just dropped the last week. It's only a 4-week crochet along. That's the only reason I agreed to do it. I've just finished week 2. So that shows you how up to date I am. But it's a beautiful, beautiful shawl. But as you can see, every row is different. And there's no way I could write that pattern out.
Yeah.
And somebody told me yesterday or the day before, I think it's Cheryl Wells from UU Knits. Cheryl Wells is a wealth of information. And it's tips. It's little tippy things. Every time I'm stuck and mention it in a video, she's like, oh, just do this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she just told me, I just learned yesterday that in most videos, there's a transcript. You just click that button and it has everything listed by time on the video, what they are saying. So I can screenshot the instructions for some of these specialty things.
Oh, wow.
And I don't have to write them all out.
Wow.
And then it tells you exactly in the video where it is. So you can just touch it and it takes you right to that spot in the video.
Oh, wow. Well,
and it's just right there.
Yeah, well, we're talking about patterns. I want to remind everyone that's here or anybody that watches this later, I do have a 20 pattern pack that's free on my website. I offered it way back when COVID started as something for people to do who were stuck at home. So anybody that wants to try any of my patterns, there's a free 20 pack pattern, say that fast 3 times, that all they have to do is click on it and they can get all those patterns free downloaded right to their computer.
Wonderful.
And
and that's in your website.
That's on my website. It's not on
Okay.
Etsy. It's on the website, creativegrandma.net. And if you scroll down through the patterns, we do have free patterns on there. So the patterns that don't have a price are the free patterns. So they just click on them and they
Wow.
upload them.
That's fabulous. I
Yeah.
cannot wait to go look at those. I noticed, I know it's gone. In the description box is the link to your channel, and then in the descriptions on um, all of your videos will be that information. So
Yeah.
if somebody can't remember that, just pop over there and you'll find that. You know, you were talking about that snowman pattern, and it caught my eye. My daughter loves snowmans, and I have a collection of snowman patterns, none of which have I made. I as I was looking at it, I'm like, that's cross stitching on top of there,
Mm.
which I love to cross stitch, so that doesn't scare me. But I've not, and I've seen it lots of times on patterns. In fact, I've got a pattern for a dishcloth where you cross stitch some stuff on top of it. But the on the snowman, and I was thinking in my little head, well, you know, you could just do those stitches on there and carry your yarn. But I think with having the cross stitch on top of it, it adds a little texture to it,
Yeah.
and it's really, really pretty. I just am I can't wait to try that.
Well, the original thought behind the design was I prefer to stitch the design into the
Mhm,
into the pattern, but because I was trying to make it easy for anyone
mhm,
who wanted to make it, because a lot of people are afraid of those designs and they're very simple. They're really
mhm.
easy to make.
Yeah.
That's why I chose to make it the way I did, because again, when you're making a pattern that, especially the scarf where it was green, red, green, and then you go up and it's changing colors like 10
Mhm.
different times across, you're going to have all these
Oh,
extra little balls of yarn. You may
so
have
many bobbins.
15 strands of
Right.
yarn, and it was just too messy, I thought, for anybody that wanted to make something and have fun. Because
Mhm.
even I sometimes get really frustrated, because then you have to stand there and unwrap it when it gets tangled, when you're switching colors. And I thought, how can I make this the easiest way that I can? And again, the cross stitching, I think the Afghan, you could make it in single crochet if you wanted, if you know how to follow a chart. So
Mhm.
anything that's Tunisian crochet, you can convert that over to single crochet
Sure.
and just change your colors if you don't like Tunisian crochet.
Which
But
I do not.
the funny thing was, they asked me to, well, they wanted several blankets, but I'm having a brain dead couple months where, there's so much stuff out there that you try to think of stuff that nobody else has
Mhm.
made. It's really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
there are times where I thought, okay, I'll make a dishcloth. I'll pick this pattern. Then I try to research it first. Well, okay, 3 other channels did a dishcloth making that stitch pattern. So I try to stay away from stuff that somebody else did, but sometimes,
It's
it's
almost impossible. Well, and
yeah,
it's like you're saying, everybody who's got a YouTube channel is a designer now.
yeah,
And, you know, there's only so many things you can do. And I think sometimes the difference between, yeah, natural creations, I agree with you. She says she's not a friend with Tunisian either. And I'll tell you why I'm not. It's my own fault. But there is a difference, just like you were saying, between somebody who makes patterns and a pattern designer. Because just like you said, there's rules, there's ways to make it appropriately, there's ways to write the pattern so it's actually can be made. And I think that some of that is what we're losing with the prolific number of people that are throwing patterns out.
yeah. It's sad because there's some wonderful crochet people out there that's making beautiful items. They're just not quite right in how they're writing them. Because
Yeah.
somebody sent me a pattern and said, Glenda, I bought this pattern. It was a gorgeous pattern. It was an absolutely beautiful pattern. It was a simple pattern, but when I was looking at it, it had like SC6, HD3. Okay, well, the person had no idea. Now, to me, it meant, okay, single crochet in the next 6 stitches, but is
Mhm.
that really what they meant?
Right.
No, so yeah, it's Anyone who wants to write patterns should really take the time and learn how to do it correctly.
And follow the what's that association where they have there's a set of standards.
The Crochet
Right.
Guild of America.
Yeah.
The other one is, oh my goodness, there's two different ones. I use the Crochet Guild of America a lot. They have great information. They actually have information that you can print out where it gives you the measurements for different sizes, children's sizes, men's sizes, hat sizes, sock sizes, all kinds of information. And that's kind of a guide I use because if you're going to design a hat, now sometimes I'll design it with the measurement of my own head, but everybody's head isn't the same size.
Right.
So it will tell you, like, Glenda's big head might be 20 inches around, where your head might be 18 inches. So
your tiny little pinhead.
So it kind of gives you the guidelines. Okay, if you want to make a medium-sized hat, you need to make it to where it fits a circumference of maybe 18 inches for a medium head, 22 for a large head. And then it also gives you the measurements for the height from the top of the hat to the bottom of the hat. So very wonderful guidelines that anybody could use to help if they're learning. So I highly recommend the Crochet Guild of America. And that's where I went and got my teacher license. I got everyone they had up to the professional. I just wanted to see if I could do it. I don't really go teach. Well, I do on YouTube.
You're teaching all the time. Yeah.
But I just wanted to have the credentials. So they have a course where you can take it and they'll send you the information, and they teach you about gauge. They teach you how to change colors, and then you send your samples in and they grade them. And it's a really nice learning experience if you're a professional and you just want to freshen up and get your credentials. Some places, like Joann's or Michael's or something like that, I think that they have classes where people go in and teach. You might want to get your credentials and see about that. But I just did it for the fun of it. I just wanted to see how good I was based on somebody else's opinion. I know a lot, but there's still a lot I don't know. And that's the one problem, because my gram taught me a certain way. And I know they have a magic circle and the magic knot, and I still tie a double knot when I can't change. I tried. I thought, well, I'm going to start doing it the way everybody else, and I don't. I go back to the way my gram taught me.
It's ingrained in our head. That's what our fingers automatically do.
And I try to tell people, if you have a better way, because sometimes I think, Glenda, you're so old fashioned the way you do stuff. Can't teach an old dog new tricks. I do it the way I like. And I just tell people, if you have a better way, do it your way.
Yeah.
And, so, yeah.
Karen, KB Fibers is telling the other association is the American Crochet Association. It's Selena Baca is the one that runs that. And she's got a program very similar to that as well. And I have actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, Karen, because I was actually looking at some of her how to teach crochet videos, because I have been asked to teach a beginning crochet class, and I'm terrified because of exactly what you were saying. I do things the way I do them, and I know I'm not doing it right, but that's how I was taught, and that's what I've been doing for 50 years. And so I'm really, really afraid to teach this class. But
it's like my gram. She taught me the way she crocheted. I don't think I do too bad. I mean, I have my moments where I think, what were you thinking? What were you trying to make? It doesn't look anything like what you think you were going to make. But, they will learn how you teach them, and then they evolve from that. They get their own method, just like holding your crochet hook. People make fun of the way I hold my hook. Well, that's the way I was taught. So you may be taught a way, but then you might learn you like holding it a different way. So I think everybody evolves with their crocheting. The more they learn,
And I find crochet to be very forgiving. Even if I do it wrong, as long as I consistently do it wrong.
Yeah.
There you go. That's just the way it is.
If I make a mistake in my design, I don't tell anybody. Like I know I did something the other day, and it's like I made a mistake 3 rows below, and I thought, I'm not ripping that out. I'm just going to keep continuing. And it was like I missed a stitch or something. So then I added the extra stitch in the next row to get back where it's
Yep.
supposed to be. And I thought, well, that's what puts the love in it, you know.
That's
But
right. And we all do it. Again, so happy. Aren't you guys happy to hear that she has the same struggles that we do? That would just warms my heart, Glenda. You make me feel like a better crocheter.
we're all normal.
That is
I mean,
fabulous.
I do have struggles. Sometimes I'll put a design out there and it looks wonderful. And it's like, but if they only seen the background of trying to get those patterns done, like my grandma garden Afghan, I was trying to do a Mandela effect and trying to create one that nobody else created, and
Mhm.
just sitting there ripping out, ripping out. I mean, it took, I think, 2 weeks just to come up with that simple square. And
Wow.
then I had two squares, and then I thought, no, that's just too much. I'll just go with this one. And then I just changed the colors in each one and made the Afghan. But there was so much ripping and tearing. And then my husband sits there, because I usually try to work when I'm watching TV at
Mhm.
night when we're relaxing.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting there and he goes, "Didn't you make that like 5 times?" I said, "Yeah, but it's not right." He goes, "My God, you make everything like 10 times." I said, "Well, I got to work out the flaws." And that's
Mhm.
what, people sometimes don't see, how
Yeah.
much really goes into creating the simplest of things. But
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It is amazing. So, since this is, I mean, it's your job. There's no getting around that. This is absolutely your job. Um, and I know you create such a variety of things. Do you have a project that you most enjoy doing, blankets, or do you enjoy washcloths?
yeah, I'm a blanket maker.
Hmm.
Like I said, I got started with the Afghan artistry column. I love doing the Tunisian crochet, and I kind of backed off of it for a while because it's a little more time consuming doing those cross stitch designs, but the Afghans are beautiful.
Beautiful.
That's my problem. The things I like to make are the larger items,
Mhm.
and then simple things like, I don't know, mug rugs or something like that. I thought, I'll make a mug rug, something quick and easy for a quick video. And then I look and it's like there's 82 million mug rugs on YouTube.
Yeah, there
And
are.
you just, it's frustrating because you want to do stuff, and then you just, sometimes you just get in that rut and you want to have an assortment of patterns. So yeah, I'm just going through one of those ruts right now. I just started a baby blanket, and I try to order yarn from different places. And do you remember the Red Heart Pomodoro yarn?
Yeah.
And Hirschner's actually had a yarn called Baby Sparkle.
Hmm.
So this is the Afghan I'm making out of that Baby Sparkle. And I'm sitting here weaving in my ends because I want to get this tutorial done, and I'm trying to weave in my ends. So I'm going to be working on this, trying to get this one done. But that is the yarn. Where's,
That
oh, there,
is so pretty. That
yeah.
is so pretty. See, you guys, I wasn't ignoring her. I go over here where I can actually see my screen. I got called out on that the other day. They're like, you can't be turning away from your people. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm looking closer. That is, that
I
is
see a
so
comment
pretty.
here from Nancy where she asked me what I do with my swatches after I make them. I throw them in a tub. I make my stitch samples, and my grandson says, "Well, dig them out and do a video of your top 10 favorite." Or
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a
yeah,
great idea. I tear mine out and use the yarn.
yeah. I bought a flowered garbage can. It was a new garbage can, but it had flowers all painted on it. It was gorgeous.
Mhm.
So I started throwing them in that. So now that's full. And I thought I should sit and actually make a blanket using different
Yeah.
stitchable weights just for people who want to learn. But
Hmm.
I haven't
Um,
done that either.
yeah, I saw a video of a lady, and I think it was a knitting channel. And she said at the end of the year, she took all of her swatches and connected them and made a blanket out of them. At the end of the year, she gave it to her dad because he watched every one of her videos. And so he remembered her doing all of these swatches, and he just loved it. I thought, what a great idea. You know what would be wonderful, Miss Glenda? How about you connect those all and raffle it off for charity? We would love to have that.
That would be a good idea. if I
I would.
knew how to.
That would be a wonder. Don't you guys? Wouldn't you guys love to be able to win a blanket that she made like that? Wouldn't that just be the diamond in your crown?
That's
That
what
would.
my grandson said. He says, Graham, you're getting a heck of a pile of blankets back there. I said, yeah, I know. I said, I was saving them because I never knew when I might need them again to photograph them. And then
Mhm.
I thought, well, I'm getting, I've been on YouTube now for several years, and I thought I got to quit saving everything because I'm getting too many piles. So,
Mhm. I hear ya. I
yeah,
hear that. No,
yeah.
I think that's a wonderful idea. Put those together. We could all make donations to your charity, and then just pick a winner.
Well, I did see a comment here too I want to address. Diane is having a hard time with her foundation chain. And I just
Mhm.
wanted to tell people sometimes when you have trouble, it's better to go with one hook size larger to make your foundation chain and then go back to the recommended hook size when you do your first row. So if you're having trouble with that, that might help. I mean, it's just a suggestion.
Mhm.
That's what I do
That's
sometimes.
what I do as well. I
Yeah.
do that as well. And you know what else I struggle with, and I really want to get better with it, and I'm not even going to be able to remember the name, but it's when you're doing the chain and the first stitch at the same time. What do they call that? It's not in when you're working it, you actually end up working kind of up instead of sideways. But
Foundation single crochet
is
where
that
you
what it is?
yeah, I don't like that either. I like just to make my long chain and then
And then go back. Yeah,
they I think it's called the foundation
I
single
think it
crochet.
is.
Yeah, where you
And
do one stitch and then you do the next stitch in the side and
yeah,
bottom.
yeah, yeah, you're building it. The
Yeah,
chainless foundation, yeah, that's it.
that's
Keep
what it
it
is.
happy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I've
I don't
seen
like
people do
this.
it with half doubles and doubles. I think you can do it with any
Yeah.
stitch, but I really struggle with that.
Yeah.
And it does look good when you're done, but
I
I'm kind of
I
with
don't
you, old
see the
dog.
yeah, I've never seen the purpose in it. I'd rather make my chain and go on the back bump and then you have that. I mean, most stuff I go in the just the top loop,
Mhm.
but if you go in the back bump, you get that beautiful edging.
Yeah, that
Then
pretty
when you
edging.
come around to do your border, it's easier to see the edge
Mhm.
of your stitches. It has a better, beautiful look. And if you don't put a border on your blanket, then it has a beautiful. It's good enough to be a finished edging if
Yeah,
you go in the back bump.
pre-finished. So that's interesting because I when I'm making my chain and then I'm going back to do my first row, I don't know where to actually put my hook there. What am I, because I try to pick up both legs of the top of that, but it's almost impossible from the chain. And so where, yeah, that's so you go into the back and do the back bump on there. That's where you grab it.
It depends on the design. I mean, sometimes I'm lazy and I just go in the chain.
Whatever
But
you grab.
if I want a nice edging, depending on what border, I'll go in the back bump. So let me see if I can explain this. You're going into the second chain. So if you're working in the back bump,
I know I'm
you're
looking.
going to take your hook
It's
and you're going
making
to
sense.
the first chain. So it would be the second chain. So the second bump.
Yeah. So let's see if I can do this. We're just going to make a few chains. It's not the first time I've used a project for something else entirely. Okay, so I've got a couple of chains here now. And what is
I'm going
facing me is the double bump thing. So you're suggesting to turn it in the back and grab that. Oh, I like that.
I can't say
What I typically do, yeah, I like that. I think what I typically have done is grab the top of the two legs, and it doesn't it sometimes it stretches it out too much.
I only go under one loop when I go in the chain.
Yeah.
I go under the top loop and leave the other two strands on the bottom of the chain. If I'm
Yeah.
going to work across, if I'm working in the back bump, it
Yeah.
does give it a beautiful look when you work in the back bump compared to
Mhm.
this.
I'm
But
gonna do that. I'm gonna grab that. I'm gonna start grabbing from that back bump. I can see how that would make a because then you've got the edging of the top of that of the chain, and
gonna
it's
match.
just a very nice finished edge. I like that. I like that idea a lot. Lulu, no, you're fine. We're just visiting this morning with Miss Glenda from Creative Grandma, and we are so blessed to have her and her wealth of knowledge with us this morning. We're just learning so much about her. This is wonderful. So what has been your favorite? Somebody asked, what has been your favorite project? And I know that's going to be tough with all the projects you've made.
I think the best project I ever made was the one I dedicated to my dad when he passed, and that was the Summer Rose Tunisian Afghan. And the second one was the
Beautiful.
Lion brand, the Grandma's Garden Afghan. Those were
Mhm.
my two favorite designs.
Well, and they're
Also
just absolutely
Afghans.
stunning.
Yeah,
Absolutely
when,
fantastic.
yeah, when my dad was dying, we had him home. He was on hospice, and I was taking care of him. Hardest time in my life, and
Mhm.
I was trying to get a blanket made just to dedicate to him.
Mhm.
And then that again, I had it all cross stitched out, and I was working on it. And then the roses were too big; they just seemed awful big for the panel, and then I wasn't happy with it. And then he passed before I could get it done, so then I redesigned it. But yeah, that will probably always be
Mhm.
the one that I cherish the most. But
It really is. Those are just beautiful. And those are the kind of things I look at and go, yeah, I can't do that. It's pretty, but I can't
but
do
you
it. And
can,
and
you
I know if I just took a minute and learned, get your pattern and follow your pattern, I know I could do it. I talk myself out of doing a lot of things.
a lot
Um,
of people do
just
that.
like this thing here. I never would have done that on my own if I hadn't have been browbeaten into doing it.
The reason I like Tunisian crochet is because, well, again, my gram taught me, and it was one
Mhm.
of the first stitches I learned where I thought, well, this is cool. All I got to do is put all the loops on and take all the loops
Take
off.
all the loops off. Yeah.
Then variegated yarn was my best friend. I thought I was like, I was 11 years old and I was a famous designer. I put on that variegated yarn and it just creates those patterns. And ooh,
Hmm.
I'm getting fancy now.
Hmm.
That's all I could do.
And I have done. It's so funny because do you remember Tunisian being called the Afghan stitch?
It's still called.
Yeah.
People use
So
both terminologies on it.
my very best friend, who should be in here today, but I don't think she is, um, the only person I know in person that crochets, and she does almost exclusively the Afghan stitch. And we could pick out any blanket, any design, any pattern, and she would whip that thing up with the Tunisian crochet. And I started calling it Tunisian. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I go, that thing you do, because I couldn't remember that she called it Afghan. And I said, that's that thing that you do all the time. She goes, oh, the Afghan stitch, yeah. And she makes everything out of it. So she taught me how to do it last Christmas. And again, that's one of those things where I cannot remember. And I've done that stitch 10 100 million times, and I have to look at a video or look at the steps every time because I can't remember the process. So last Christmas, this is what ruined me with the Tunisian. Last Christmas, I wanted to make my daughter a blanket that I designed myself. I guess I am a designer. Ha. So what I wanted it to be was a family blanket and for it to look like a crossword puzzle. So I made all these little squares about this big in the Tunisian, about that big in the Tunisian, and I had a background color and then all of their names, and they all had to intersect, like on a crossword puzzle. And I did it, and then I put hearts in the corners, and I had 280 squares that I then had to sew together.
See, you could have made one solid Afghan out of the Tunisian stitch and cross stitched the design and
Cross
it's
stitch
really,
the stripes on it. Yeah. And it would have been a heck of a lot easier. And
cross
but
stitching takes a little time, but that's the fun.
not this much time.
You can personalize it. You can,
Hmm.
do all kinds of things. And again, if you have a chart, you can just follow a chart and
Yep.
crochet the colors right in the stitches. But if you get into too many colors, you do have a lot of strands of yarn,
Hmm.
but you put on the
Well, I
color.
only had two colors. Well, no, that's not true because each name was a different color. But it was still, you're only using that for 5 or 6 little. Yeah, that would have been the thing to do. I do you well, you must know how to create a chart, like just like this. Okay, I've got an idea and I need it to say this. How do you create the chart?
I go online and print out free graph paper.
Yeah, and
Usually
you just
get
color it
10,
in.
yeah, I get 10 squares per inch. And then what I do is I try to figure out how wide, because sometimes you can do a design on graph paper and it might be so long that when you start
Mhm.
crocheting, your Afghan's 10 feet wide. So you have
Right.
to really be careful. I learned about 180 stitches. Somewhere in that ballpark is, depending on what size hook you use,
Mhm.
150 to 180. Just be careful how wide. But you take the graph paper, and I use colored pencils, make sure they're erasable colored pencils.
Mhm.
And I use pencils, make sure they have good erasers, because I take my graph paper and then I cut the ends and I tape it all together to make one giant sheet. And then I sit it on my desk and I try to figure out in my head what I want to do. If you wanted to do a crossword puzzle, then what
Mhm.
I would do, and what you can do is you can start it, and then if it isn't even around the edges, then you just do the design first on paper.
Yeah.
Make sure it's within the stitches. And then
Mhm.
what I do is I can either use my scissors and cut it out and then paste it on more graph paper and make
Mhm.
sure the sides are even. You have the same amount of stitches on this side as that side. And if you have a pattern that's not square, then I usually take a ruler and I'll go to the very top stitch on my graft and I'll draw a line across. And then I go from the very last stitch on each side, draw a line straight down. And then the last stitch going to the bottom, I draw a line. That will give you a square. So you want to make sure that you
Mhm.
have the same amount of stitches on both
Right.
sides as you do the top and
Center.
bottom, and place your design in the center of your project. And then again, you can put all kinds of fancy borders after you get your design done. But that's how I do it. I work the old fashioned way and I put it on graph paper. But there is a cross stitch program out there that you can use on your computer. I had one, it's outdated, and I think that computer died a long time ago. And I never replaced it, but it is easier to use the cross stitch program, where you can get on there and just click a button and put the different colors
Um,
in and design it with a click of a mouse.
is
Uh,
is that Stitch Fiddle?
uh, Boy.
Because I know a lot of people use Stitch Fiddle, and it's the same kind of thing. I've gotten on there, and we talked about this, just not technology. And I've gotten on there and played with it a little bit, but I haven't really figured it out.
Yeah,
And
that wasn't the name of the program I had. I can't remember. It's been so long because I don't use it. The only
mhm,
problem with using that program is when you get finished, if you want it as a pattern, it will print the pattern out, but it lists it in DMC embroidery threads.
mhm.
It's for, cross stitching
Right,
with
right, right.
embroidery threads. So you would have to kind of like delete that,
Mhm.
just figure out how to turn it into a PDF with just the chart. But it's an easier way to design. But to get your original design, I still use paper and pencil.
Mhm.
That's how I learned, and I erase a lot. So
Yep.
that's about how you do it, especially if you want to make a blanket with somebody's name on it, or
Mhm.
there's a wedding and you want to make a blanket. You can do all kinds of things and put their first and last name, their wedding date, maybe a cross stitch heart,
Mhm.
or all
Mhm.
kinds of things. And you can really get creative.
Now, have you, with the cross stitch on a finished project like that, have you done tutorials on how to cross stitch onto a project? Because I
I
know it can be a little tricky with getting it. It's not like a regular cross stitch. You have to get it just right on the stitch. Is that correct?
Well, a lot of people do it different ways. I do
Mhm.
it in between the stitches so you don't see it on the back. I don't
Mhm.
like my cross stitches showing on the back.
Yeah.
Once in a
Okay.
while you might get a little peek of the yarn, but yeah, there's with this let me with the regular Tunisian simple stitch, you're dealing with vertical stitches.
Oh,
So
yes.
so
Okay.
you cross stitch, like if you have 10 stitches in one row that you need to do all in the same color, then I go up over the vertical stitch down and I do all the one side
Okay.
first. When I get to the end of that color, then I come back and I cross stitch all the other slants this way back over. And sometimes if you have just one color, that's the hardest when you have like one or two stitches,
Mm-hmm.
then there's not a lot to secure your yarn.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get a little creative, or you could buy, there's a product out there that you can buy that, oh, I was just going to get some the other day. What was the name of it? That you just put a dab on and it helps hold your yarn. It's
Oh,
like a glue, but it's not, but it's made for that purpose. What was it called?
now would that be good for like? I know some of the yarns I've used when I've done my ends, and I do a good job of securing my ends, and then over time their little tails are sneaking out,
Yeah.
and that might be good just to put a dot on there to secure those ends.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I seen it at, was it at Walmart? Stitch Fix? Oh
Oh,
my
I've heard of Stitch Fix. I didn't realize that's what it
I
did.
don't, for some reason that's sticking in my mind, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, I use that sometimes when I'm working with thread
Mm-hmm.
because, sometimes, well, this doily I'm making right now, ugh, I wish I picked a different yarn. It's kind of stretchy, it's kind of glittery, it's kind of slippery, and it's like a size 20 instead of a 10, and
Oh, okay.
10's about, the thinnest I can go anymore with my eyesight,
Mm-hmm.
but boy,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get that doily done.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's one way to just put just a dab when you're doing the cross stitch, or you can tie a knot as long as you put that knot up inside between the layers of the Tunisian stitch. That's what's so nice, because Tunisian knit stitch is, or not Tunisian knit
Yeah.
stitch, the simple stitch, it's a pretty thick
It's
fabric.
fabric. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can, if you prefer to tie a knot, you can tie a knot. Just get it up in there and weave that end in between the layers so you don't see that end.
Is this the product? Fabric Fusion?
This comes in a bottle.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with that product. And I'm thinking it was Stitch, whatever I said.
Stitch
Uh,
Fix?
yeah, I think I really can't remember. I have my brain, I can't remember anything anymore, but
Oh, I hear you. I hear you right there. So that's the thing. We need a tutorial on cross stitching on a project.
I do think I did a small tutorial. I just showed how it was done when I did
Hmm.
the summer rose Afghan. I think
Okay.
if you go back through those tutorials, I do show how to do a portion of that,
Okay.
how to
I might
cross.
be gonna have to find that because you've piqued my interest now on this. I can see that because I mean I already cross stitch and I really enjoy it. And I can see this being hello, Miss Angela. I can see this being a way to expand on my patterns by adding cross stitch to it. And would you please, I apologize. Would you tell me the name of that blanket
I
again?
think it was the summer rose.
Summer Rose.
I think I did a small tutorial on just how to show people how to do it. I know I have a tutorial on it. I remember doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when I start my thread, I usually run my thread up several stitches when
Mm-hmm.
I start. I never tie a knot. And my mom has Afghans that are 30, 40 years old that look brand new.
Mm-hmm.
But I weave them up. And then when I cross stitch, when you're cross stitching, especially when you're going, like if I'm working across, I'll run my thread crosswise.
Mm-hmm.
When I start, I'll run it
Right.
sideways underneath the stitches. And then when I'm cross stitching, my cross stitches hold that yarn, your starting yarn, in place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to come out because your other stitches are holding it in place. Now, when you're running it up and down, like if I'm starting and I have to run it up and down, then when I do my stitches, I make sure when I'm working down that my needle comes under and gets that thread, and I hold it in place by doing my stitches, by making sure I wrap that strand with my stitches.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, a little
I can
bit.
see what I'm doing, but
I know, I know. It's hard. It's hard.
until you actually sit down and do it,
And
once you do it, you'll know what I mean.
yeah, and I'm so visual. I'm so visual. That's why I get so much benefit from the YouTube tutorials when you've got a good teacher like you and like Angela and like Darla, where they actually show you It doesn't do any good to tell me what I need to do and then go like this. I need you to show me stitch by stitch and then show me what it looks like on the end and then turn it around and show me what it looks like on the back.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you can tell that it's not right when you see the back of something too.
Yeah,
But
sometimes I get a lot of nasty comments because people get mad at how I mean, I try to go over every detail. It's the way I was taught. Assume people know nothing. And, I just thought that people who know how to do it would just skip ahead in the video. But yeah, I talk too much, or I go too slow, or but what do you
I have seen some of the worst comments on videos, and I saw one lady handled it the best thing I have ever seen. Somebody was like, meow, 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 meow. And she said, well, it seems like my videos are not for you. Perhaps you should go watch somebody else. Yeah. And I'm like, is that not the most perfect comment? I
just ignore it. Used to hurt my feelings. Like I hate when somebody corrects how I speak. I can't help it. I was raised, my mom says it's Pennsylvania Dutch. Sometimes I don't pronounce words the way somebody else might, or, and I don't know why people do that.
Yeah.
But I don't let it bother me anymore. I used to, but it's like I said, they must be an English teacher because I wasn't good in English or history,
Right.
I can't remember dates.
Gosh, no, not at all. And I went back to college when I was in my 50s, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? And you just do.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how I was going to manage to compete with all those 20-year-olds and remember all that stuff. And the classes I was taking, there was a lot of memorizing, and I just studied hard. I couldn't do it today. There's no way I could my memory is so bad. Pamela asked if she could post the link to your Summer Rose Afghan. Pamela, I think only people with the blue dress can do that. If Angela is still in here, I know that she can. I don't know if she's still in here. She was here a bit ago. I think she's my only blue dress right now. But
well, I know what you mean, because I'm having trouble with my memory. I'm getting older, and I said it's scaring me, because I said I'm scared to death of Alzheimer's. I have to crochet. I don't want to forget how to crochet, but simple things I forget, and my daughter gets upset. I just told you that. I said, well, and then I got on and I wanted to do a desktop publishing course, and they went to online learning only, where they don't send the books.
Right.
I can't learn on a computer. I got to have a book in front of my face. I want to see the words. I want to, absorb it from the written word, because again, I'm from the old school. I learned out of books. I don't want to look at a computer screen and stand there and stare, and so then I decided not to take it. And I was upset because I wanted to learn how to put ebooks together, and maybe go to a next step of maybe publishing. I wanted to do an ebook with my Christmas designs and just put all the Christmas designs in a book. And I just don't know how to do it. So that's frustrating, because
it is frustrating.
And I still need to learn how to use a cell phone. My daughter got me it's not a disposable one. It's just one that I carried when I picked up Carly. I said to my husband, I had it in one of my project bags because they don't have a house phone. So when I go over to watch Carly, I have to have a phone in case I need to use the phone. I don't know where to put it. It's like I'm not used to carrying a phone. So I'm afraid to spend the money on a cell phone, because how do people know? How do they keep track of it?
And now I carry two of them around, because I bought this fancy new thing for the camera, because it really does good videos, but I can't use it. I can't even hang up a phone call with it. So I still do all my stuff from my old cell phone.
Well, you don't know how to use it. You have to.
I can't figure it out.
See, they're telling, because I forgot my camcorder when I went to the fair. My husband bought me this little tiny one. I said, I walked out of the house and forgot it. It's a wonder I even took myself, that I'd
Mhm.
forget to bring myself. But my grandson Gary says, you got to get a cell phone. That way you can take your videos, you can take pictures. The
Mhm.
only thing you can't do on a cell phone is like cook your supper. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing what these
Yeah. Yeah.
phones can do.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. is saying you can cook on your phone. You just call Uber Eats.
He's got a
It
point.
is
Okay,
right.
there's about nothing you can't do with a cell phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get up to today's technology. When my 8-year-old granddaughter knows more than me, that's
Yeah. Absolutely. And I do. I sit down with my grandson and he shows me 5 or 6 things and then I do that for a couple of weeks and then he shows me a few new things.
and then you say, "How did he show me how
Yeah,
to?"
how did he do that? Yeah. Yeah. It's the most bizarre thing. I can't hang up from a phone call. So when I say goodbye, you got to hang up. And then I have one friend that just sits there and laughs at me because she knows I can't figure out how to hang it up. What? You should just be able to push the button. And no, that's not how you do it. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
my sister has a cell phone and she has it in her hand all the time. And I said, I
Mhm.
have 3 floors in my house. So
Yeah.
I said, if my phone is in the kitchen and I'm upstairs, I'm never going to hear it ringing.
Hmm.
So I said, I'd probably have to design a crochet something that would
Yep.
attach to my body so I could,
Hmm.
have it on me all the time. And then that would irritate me. And I said, I just don't, because I have the old fashioned phones, the line phones, 5 phones in my house, 2 downstairs, one on the second floor, one on the
Yep.
third floor. And I said, if I only had one phone, I know that it would,
Oh,
I
love.
would lose
We're always looking for our phone. And it's like, where's my phone? Where's my phone? And now with trying to keep track of 2 of them. And this one doesn't have phone service anymore.
Well, does it ring if it's off or if it's because he says I
No,
said I lost my cell phone. I said it's in one of the project bags, which if you ever seen how many project
right?
bags I had, I says I can't find it. I don't know where I put it. He said, well, call it. I said, well, I'm sure the battery's dead or it's
Yeah, Barry's probably dead.
right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
So I don't even know where that is. So I just don't want to spend that kind of money on a cell phone.
And they're not cheap, let me tell you.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know. I
You know how
know.
much yarn I could have bought by what I spent on this silly phone.
Yeah. I know the day's coming. I'm going to have to
I
learn. Go.
know.
I'm a
I
flip
know.
phone. Get me one of the what are those flip phones that they have for the? I'm a
Oh, the not a cricket. What are they called? We got one for mom. What are they called? I know what you mean. It's the old lady phone is what I call them.
phone with the giant buttons
Yep,
and
it's got the
yeah.
giant buttons and it only does 4 or 5 things.
I want
Yeah.
a phone that's only a phone if I want to call somebody.
Yeah. Nobody calls anybody. You
And
don't call anybody.
I
No,
hate
no.
going out to eat. Everybody in a restaurant, they're sitting there eating, looking on their cell
Playing
phones,
with their phones.
talking
Yeah.
on their cell phones. I said nobody goes out to eat to just eat and have
Yeah.
quiet.
Jitterbug. That's it. That's the old lady phone is the
Jitterbug.
jitterbug.
Yeah.
Thank you, Peppermint.
I'm a jitterbug person.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And they are easier to use, but I had to show my mom over and over and over how to do something. And there's a couple things on the jitterbug that isn't easy. They're not as intuitive. The difference is there's a button you can push to call a help desk and they will tell you how to do what you're trying to do.
Oh,
That's the main good feature of a jitterbug.
well, my husband's cell phone, he showed me is it an iPhone or whatever they're
Mhm.
called? And he goes, well, this is all you have to do. So I said, okay, let me try. And I'm standing there and I was touching stuff and then it started calling somebody.
Yep.
I says, oh my God, Gary, I'm calling because it was his work phone. I
Oh
said,
no.
oh my God, it's calling somebody. And he says, give me my phone back. I
You're
says,
banned from the phone.
even touch it. It's so sensitive. It's like,
Well, this thing will start recording me. And I'm like, no, I did not tell you to record. How do I stop it? How do I start? I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to start it.
I don't feel so bad now.
Oh no. I'm completely lost with the thing. Completely lost.
I
What I
just,
did learn how to do the other day is with my dead phone, the one that has no cell service, it's basically a little computer at this point. I can download videos on this. And then when I'm driving in the car, this can just play. And I can still use this for a map, but this can play my videos.
Oh.
Any of the ones I've downloaded, I don't need cell service. I don't need internet to play them.
Well, sometimes I get a little depressed because I think I wish I knew somebody who lived close to me that
Mhm.
because nobody in my family crochets. I'm trying to teach my
Right?
sister. She has no interest in crocheting.
Right?
But I wish I knew somebody that could help me. Like right now, like you have the two screens.
Mhm.
I wanted to do videos where I could do crochet alongs, but I wanted to be able to have my face like you
Mhm.
and have a screen where the camera was pointing
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
on what I'm doing so I
Yeah.
could do
So
some,
something like that.
yeah, something like that where I could be talking to people, but yet
Mhm.
showing them in detail, doing live crocheting
Right.
and
And
helping people. And I
and
don't have any clue of
well,
how to do that. I see other
that's what I
people.
do. And on this program, it's literally just there's a line, you can't see it, but there's a line across the bottom of different settings. And you just touch it and it changes to it. That's what I do with my bingo. It took me what? Hey, you guys, how long did it take me to figure the bingo out? We did it for probably a month before I figured out how to get the bingo up on this screen. I was literally doing the bingo calling on my tablet and showing people what the numbers were. And then one day we figured it out. Somebody helped me figure it out. One of the other YouTubers just walked me through it, and I would be more than happy to share the tiny little bit of knowledge that I have with you.
So
um,
this program, you can use StreamYard for that,
yeah.
but you would have to have two cameras. How would you do it?
We'll ask somebody who
You
knows.
live in California, right? Hey, get in your car and
That
hit
is
the
That is the blessing of this community. There is somebody listening that knows how to do whatever it is you're trying to do. And if you don't know how, they know somebody who knows how. And and you know me, I'll just reach out and ask somebody a question. And I have reached out to other content creators and said, hey, I'm trying to do this. That's with my bingo. I reached out to somebody and I said, where did you find that bingo doohickey? And they said, oh, it's right here. And she sent me the link.
Oh,
People
wow.
are so incredibly helpful. I have had people sit on the phone with me for an hour to help me figure out how to use Nightbot, how to use StreamYard. And
What's Nightbot?
okay, so Darla, you're on here. Would you please type the word drop, Darla? She's on here. Okay, so there, Saf did it. So she typed the word drop. Now, Nightbot is going to drop in the link to her channel. Bingo, there it is.
It does it automatically?
Does it automatically because I've got it set up on
Wow.
Nightbot. Nightbot also
Is that
helps.
part of this program? Or you're using
No,
two separate programs?
Nightbot talks to this program. It's a separate program. And I struggled with Nightbot. I can do 3 or 4 simple things. There, see now it said it did but it won't do a whole lot because it'll do like 2 or 3 people's and then it won't do it for a while, so you don't get one after another. And people, as you're watching throughout the program, it'll say make sure you go over and subscribe to Glenda, make sure you go over and subscribe to, I got 2 or 3 of them listed in there. Yeah.
Well, I know when I was I started a cooking channel. I was going to do a cooking channel with Cody, and then I got
Mm.
to where I had health problems, and then I had to have the surgery. So then we just stopped it. It was too much trying to do both channels.
Mhm.
But I know that when he helped me, we had the cell phone set up filming one
Mhm.
way, and then we had the camcorder set up filming another way. But that wasn't live. That was using two different cameras to film, but then you had to edit and use,
Edit them together.
yeah, so it wasn't quite what I want to do. And I think
I know
sometimes,
there's a way. I know there's a way because people do it all the time.
yeah, I see
I
people,
just don't know what it is.
yeah. I'm sure my grandson would probably know. I'll probably have
Yeah,
to.
he could probably figure it out pretty darn quick. It's this particular program, Nightbot, is pretty intuitive to use. Um, And when you're doing there's a share button and it asks you what you're connecting to. But I'm just like, I don't want to break anything. I can do what I need to do, and that I'm never doing a tutorial. So that's not gonna.
I just think that if I mean, I do the tutorials, but I think if I did a live tutorial where we did a crochet along, especially if somebody's having trouble, that would be the next upper step, at
Yes.
least to me in my channel, to be
So
able to do
that's
that.
That's exactly what I'm doing tomorrow afternoon. Thank you for the lead in. Tomorrow afternoon is the second in our series of mosaic crochet, and I called it "Teach Me How," because exactly what we're saying. Even with live videos, even with YouTube videos, I still have questions, and so we are learning live how to do mosaic crochet, and I've got Michelle from Mosaic Crochet and More is teaching me and Miss Morgan how to do this. And so as we're doing it, and we're doing it right then and there, and it's like, wait, I don't understand what you said. What am I supposed to do here? What happens if I do this? And we're asking all the questions that I'm always asking the YouTube video when I'm watching them. And we're getting a really good response. And I want to do a whole series of these. So maybe you and
Yeah.
I can see that little cross stitch thing would be a really good way to do that. Because
Yeah.
it's we're taking somebody like you who already has this, it's ingrained in your brain, and somebody like me who's never done it before. And I have all it's just like when you're trying to teach your sister how to crochet. She's asking all the questions that you don't even think about because it's so
Yeah.
automatic for you.
And that's why I like to have her on, because she
Mhm.
she
Poor
looks
thing.
at stuff so much differently than I do. And
Mhm.
I mean, people think I pick on her, but I really don't.
No.
I just, it's just our fun bantering back and forth. And yeah, but she's not a crafter. She never was. And that's why sometimes I feel so isolated, because
Mhm.
I just wish there was people around me that come on over. Let's get creative. And when you're sitting there all by yourself, sometimes inspiration I have is getting on YouTube and seeing what
Mhm.
everybody else is making. But it's fun when you have somebody close that does
Yeah.
what you
Someone sit next to
do, to
you
get
and
together and understand the love of crochet. I mean, it's
mhm.
just, I am crochet. It's
Mhm.
what I do.
Yeah, I call it the grandma factor. We've lost that. We've lost sitting with your auntie and doing that kind of thing, and sitting with grandma and having her teach you how to make this thing that she made however many years ago. And we were figuring this out. My great grandmother made this. And so this is coming up on 100 years old. And this has been passed down and passed down and passed down. And it looks as good as, I've got two of these. I got one in my bedroom. And to think that we are not only keeping this craft alive, but I mean, we're learning the exact same things that they were doing 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, how many things are out there that are like that?
Well, the problem is, back in the day, we used to play outside. We didn't have computers. We didn't
Right.
have all this electronic stuff. And the kids want to be on their electronics. They don't,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, remember what fun is like. I just hope
Mhm.
amusement parks stay around, because, that's about the only outside fun these kids get to have if they're not on a computer. But when I grew up, I had a bicycle. I rode in and out the road all day long, and we did things, and now it's electronics. And I've
Mhm.
been trying to teach Carly, and she has no interest. She'd
No,
rather be on her computer. And
no.
it makes me sad. I do hope that some of the younger generation pick up on it. I mean, I've seen some younger people on
Right.
YouTube, so I'm hoping, even with my videos, even if it's not my own granddaughter, I hope
Mhm.
that maybe a young person says that looks like fun, and, and they might be seeing their gram do it and want to
Mhm.
learn. And I really do hope that it helps pass it from generation to generation, because it's
Mhm.
a lost art. It really is.
It is. And I think the 20 somethings are going to be the ones that keep it alive. The little grants, we learned when we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah.
Once in a while, but not often. And when my kids were teens, they had no interest whatsoever. But what I am finding, and this is a new phenomena for me, um, my little roommate, she's 20. No, she's not old. She's older than that. No, she's not. Apparently, she's 21. I thought she was like 24. She's so mature. Well, you guys know Miss Morgan. She's so mature. And so she was in our first video. She has been crocheting about a month, maybe a month and a half. She only picked it up because of, she lives in a yarn store basically. And everything we do is yarn, yarn, yarn. So she says, okay, teach me how to crochet. And she picked it up like that. And she is just running with it. And her best friend is my gran. And so now she wants to learn crochet. She's jealous because Miss Morgan has learned how and has an in-house teacher. Well, I'm not teaching her anything. I taught her the first couple 3 stitches and off she went. She's making things I never would have thought of making. And every now and again, I'll say, okay, this is how you read a label. This is how you decide what kind of yarn. This is how you do a swatch. And this is why we do a swatch. And off she goes. And I'm like, I go, what are you making? She goes, I'm making a hat. Like that? Yep. And she's happy as a clam, and she's going to have a hat when she's done. I'm like, okay.
The thing that fascinates me is the cost of what yarn is starting to be.
Oh my
I mean, I go to the store, it's like, okay, every yarn is like $10
everything.
Now.
Everything.
I mean, even I shy away from some of these yarns. I don't buy them anymore unless they're on sale. And it's like, it's kind of putting off some people who may want to make something because the cost of the yarn, especially if it's $10 a skein and you need, 8 or 9 skeins to make a full size Afghan. It's like,
or a sweater.
And if you try to buy a couple skeins at a time, the dye lots may be
yeah.
Yep. So Again, when you start getting old, you're one of those people that I remember when yarn used to.
I used to pay $1 for that 99 cents. Yeah, Red Heart was 99 cents, and that's all I could afford. And that's what I used. I used that for decades. I only
for decades.
Probably this round of being a crochet person, because when we sold our house, I got rid of everything. I didn't have so much as a crochet hook. I've had to rebuy everything. And that's why everybody goes, oh my gosh, you buy so much yarn. I buy it when it's on sale.
Yeah.
I buy it when it's on clearance. And I had nothing. I had nothing when I started crocheting again 6 or 8 months ago. And so, and this time around, I had a little more disposable income that I've had in the past when I was doing it. So I've been buying some better qualities of yarn, but I've also been hitting the sales. If I can get, and I mean, I've got a box right here that I haven't opened yet. I'm waiting for the other half of it to get here. And I got that stuff for $2 a skein. There's no way I would have bought 10 skeins of this. I would not have paid $100 for what I consider to be a mid-range yarn.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen.
Yeah, even like Lion Brand, they do a lot of sales and they give good discounts. So when I see 35 or 40% off a yarn, that's when I try to go in and I try to buy it.
Yeah.
Because when I'm on the website, if there's a yarn I want and it's not on sale, I usually don't buy it any longer.
Just wait. And sometimes I'm buying yarns that maybe isn't the exact color I would have chosen, but for $2, I love that color now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. So it is. Yeah. KB Karen was just telling us that an acquaintance of hers wanted her to make something for her. She's like, can you make me that shawl? Sure. And the yarn was going to be over $100 to make that shawl. And she's like, we'll find something different, because that's just, it is so off-putting anymore. And even I bought some mainstay. I had this Christmas blanket. The red in it is just Walmart mainstay yarn, and it is perfectly fine to use. And when I was in Texas, that was my only option, was Walmart. And even a skein of mainstay was $7 now, and it was 6 or 8 months ago it was $3.50.
Oh my. Yeah, I'm disappointed with Walmart. As many stores as Walmart has, you think they would put a little bit nicer yarn
Mhm.
selection in it. And I was told that it's a loss leader. They carry
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
they don't
And it's
have only
way in
one.
the back of the store.
Yeah. Now mine only has one aisle and it's usually odds and ends,
Mhm.
never enough to make a
Never
profit.
enough. Mm-mm.
Very,
Two or
very
2 or 3 of
frustrating.
each color. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the main thing they carry is the red heart and the mainstay, and there's no dye lots. But even with the no dye lot, I have had some issues. I've had some issues where they just look different. But this is something that I heard, and who knows if it's true or not. If you're going to a Walmart, like where I was in Pecos, and there is not a big box yarn store nearby, they're going to have a bigger selection. And it did have a
Oh,
halfway decent selection. Um, but if you're going to a Walmart and half a mile down the road, or even in the same parking lot, there's a Hobby Lobby or a Michael's or a Joann's, you're going to have this much yarn in the Walmart.
well, even my Michaels don't carry that much yarn.
No, no,
It's
hardly
like,
any.
get rid of some of that scrapbooking stuff. You don't need a
Right?
whole store of scrapbooking stuff. Get that yarn in there for us yarny
Hmm.
people. And
Yep.
I don't know if they realize how many of us yarny people are out there between knitters and crocheters. There's a lot
There's
of
a
us.
lot.
And Michael's used to have a nice selection, and
Hmm.
then they just kept cutting back and
Well,
back and back. And it's
I,
very
I don't
disappointing.
know what they're selling. They took out their baskets. That was the place to go for baskets, and they don't carry baskets anymore.
Oh, I don't know. All
Yeah.
I know is when I go in, I'm overwhelmed by scrapbooking. It just
Yeah.
seems it just seems to me like there should be a larger selection. But
Hmm.
I don't know what their sales are for yarn. But if your sales are down, it's because you don't have enough
They
yarn in.
didn't have anything. Yeah.
AC Moore, I miss that store. That store had one of the largest yarn selections I've ever seen, besides Hobby Lobby. Hobby
Mhm.
Lobby has a
Well,
wonderful
yeah,
yarn
but
selection.
Hobby Lobby is only their own brand. Once in a blue moon, you'll see. I saw some ice cream in there the other day, and I've seen a couple of cakes. But then once they get their own brand of the cake, like the sugar wheel came in, no more
Oh,
mandala.
oh,
Um, mhm.
yeah.
So, and if you look at their stuff, it's almost entire. I was surprised to find that they had, what is that? Something toes, something toes. They had that in there because they do have their own brand of sock yarn, toasty toes, cozy toes,
Cozy
um,
Toes.
cozy toes, and they do have their own line of sock yarn. So every once in a while, you'll see something go in there. But even like you said, their basic. I love this yarn, which is a really nice yarn. Is $4.99. It's $4.99 a skein now,
Well,
and
Joanne's Fabric was supposed to have a reset and bring in a lot of the Lion Brand yarns. And I went
mhm,
down and did a video, and I didn't, half the yarns that was on my paper wasn't
mhm.
even in the store yet.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know if they're just
Well, and I think they're having
slow.
problems like everything else with, shipping and overseas and production. They can't get everything that they want to get. But
Yeah.
I've noticed the same thing at Joann's. They don't have the variety that they have had in the past.
But people really do need to learn their pricing, because I have went in certain stores and the yarn was a lot more in the store than it was on Lion Brand's
Mhm.
website. So
Oh, a lot.
I try to compare. I mean, I see
Mhm,
some of the discontinued yarns on maybe Hirschner's or Mary
mhm,
Maxim's. Sometimes you can get some gorgeous yarns at half price on their
mhm.
sites. It may be discontinued yarn, but if you love the color, who cares?
Right,
My
right.
problem is I try not to use discontinued colors. And I
Mhm.
have
And
a
you can't.
whole, yeah, I have over here, I have that Lion Brand ice cream cotton, what was it called? Cotton blend or something.
Mhm,
Beautiful colorways. And they discontinued it. So I bought everything I could afford to buy at the time. And
mhm.
now it's sitting here because I absolutely love it. I won't get rid of it. And then it's like I want to make something, but then I don't want to use it
Don't
because
wanna use it. I know, right?
I just want to sit and look at it. It's
Yeah,
pretty.
yes, yes, yes.
That's
Somebody
crazy
said
thing
that
to do.
buying the yarn and handling the yarn and loving the yarn is a different hobby from what we make with the yarn. And that is exactly the truth. And another problem that I have, like the ice cream, and I've struggled more with the ice cream than anything else, is I have a pattern that I fell in love with, and it looks like a sunset over the ocean. So you can imagine the cascade of colors through that thing. And it's all ice cream yarns. One color I cannot find anywhere. And I won't buy the ice
What
cream
color is it?
until I don't even know now. I won't buy it until I find that one color because I know I'll never make it.
Is it a
I'll,
discontinued color?
I don't even know. I don't even know. And I've probably had the pattern well over a year because it's only been about a year I've been back to crocheting. And I can see it. I can see it in my mind. But I have put it out of my mind that I'm not going to make that because I just don't want to struggle with it. And I am so bad with colors. And you guys know this. How many times have I got on and said, okay, what do I do here? Because I can't do colors. And when there's a pattern that tells me I've got another sunset thing and it's a sunset behind the trees and the yarn is discontinued and I know I am never going to be able to find any yarn that's going to look the same as those colors. And I finally did. I think it was, is it landscapes? Is that the yarn where it's the beautiful rich colors that, and so
The landscape.
yeah, I think I'm just going to use that and just because it's only for a pillow and I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay. Dina, I don't even know now. It's been a while since I've looked at it. You know, one of the 1,000 patterns that I own. I bought 10 more last night. Annie's I Central, I Pattern Central, they get me with those. And you know what they did? They sucked me in when I was first back into crocheting. They had one of their sales where it's, you know, buy one for $1.50, get one free. And I'm like, ah! And I went through and bought probably 100 patterns,
Oh my.
not realizing they do this every freaking day. And so it's always $1 for these patterns, $1.50. Well, yesterday or the day before, in fact, I think it's still good today. They're books, they're pattern books. I mean, they're still downloads, but you know, so it's a $29 book or $19 book with 100 patterns in it. They're on sale for $1.50. Or was it, if you bought two, you got them for $1.50 a piece. So I bought like 6 or 8 books last night and I didn't pay $10. And you know, and I'm flipping through them, and some of them there's only 1 or 2 patterns that I'll like. And I'm like, well, okay, so I've just paid $1 for a pattern. I'm good with that. And so I have many. The problem is then you have to print them out because I can't work a pattern on a screen. I just can't do it. But that's okay because they're all in one place and it tells me. It's so funny. I put one in my cart. You already have this one. Okay. I put this in my cart. You already have this one. Okay. But I love it that it tells me that. And it's they keep it all in one spot and I can flip through and I kind of have in my mind what's in there, but not completely. So yeah.
I said to my husband, I said, I look around my studio and I'm trying to like house clean. And I said, I have thousands of crochet magazines. And I says, I have so many crochet magazines. I don't even know what I have anymore. And I said, I'm going to just start stacking them in a pile of like 20 or 30. And I said, I'm going to start looking through every one. And the ones I don't want, I said, I'm going to have to start getting rid of because I said, you know, after a period of 40, 50 years of collecting stuff, it's like, what's the sense of having all these magazines if you don't even look at them, pick the best ones and just downsize this stuff?
Well, and so there's a couple things you can do because this is what I did with the exact same problem. Somebody asked me about that pattern. I'm looking it up real quick because I get emails from them about every 15 minutes. So I'll find out exactly the name of that company. It's an Annie's offshoot. What I did, and I did this with because mostly I had cross stitch books. I didn't buy crochet books in the past. But what I did was I flipped through the pages, marked the things I wanted to make, took a photocopy, and then donated the magazines. You could do giveaways with your magazines. People would love to have them.
I write in a lot of mine.
And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as people know they're not new, they're vintage. They're vintage.
They are vintage, all right.
Not only are they vintage, they have your years of knowledge in those notes.
Yeah, that's true.
You ask these people right here, how many of you would love to get your hands on one of those magazines she's talking about? Yeah.
Well, see, I collected the cross stitch magazines
Mhm.
because I would take a flower off of this and the
Yes.
leaves off of that, and I would use them to put a whole new cross stitch design together for
Hmm.
Afghan. So I collected those, and then I even collected knitting books, even though I
Hmm.
don't knit. And what I tell people is, if you see a knitting book, buy it if it has the schematics to sweaters, because even though it's knit, you can find a crochet stitch pattern you
Hmm.
like, and as long as you have the measurements of that shape, you can customize your own sweater by just using those measurements. So that's why I
Oh,
started buying a lot of knitting books, because the knitting books had a lot of
yeah.
charts, graphs,
Hmm.
the diagrams, and then they had the measurements for all the different sizes. So,
Hmm.
that helps, especially for me, because if I want to make a sweater for myself, how do you determine size
Hmm.
small, medium, large, extra large, 2X, 3X?
Yeah.
And that's where the diagrams in the magazines come in handy, because they
Mhm.
already figured out the
Yeah, they
measure.
got all those measurements for you. That's the one thing about the generalized instructions I don't like about crochet. In crochet, I am a 2X. Really? I don't like that. But I go with it because I want the thing to fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's just what they've come up with. Here's the name of that. Let's see if it'll work. Can you
E
see?
Pattern
There it
Central.
is. E Pattern Central. And it's an Annie's thing. Yeah, epatternCentral.com. And there's a sale every day. Don't get sucked in like I did. And what I have started doing is if I see patterns that I want, I stick it in my cart and then just wait for it to go on sale.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I mean, I've got about 10 of them in there, and they just, when that, see, oh, okay, so it's still today. Today is buy two pattern books for $3. So $1.50 a piece. And then when I was putting them in my cart, almost everything that I put in my cart was only $1.
They
So
are all
I,
downloads, right? I can't get the hard
all,
copies for that
yeah,
price.
it's all downloads. And I'm sure, that's why they can do
Yeah.
it so cheap. So right now I've got all of these things sitting in my saved items, all my saved items. And then there's the price right there on the side. And when they go on sale, it just shows you the sale price. So I just keep an eye on that list.
Wow.
And
Annie's is one of the best. I mean, they have amazing patterns on Annie's. I see so
mhm,
many things.
yeah,
I even seen Mary Maxim has a Crochet of the Month club. And I
they
just noticed that I didn't know
do.
it. I was
Oh,
going
you
to sign up,
didn't?
and then I didn't have my pocketbook upstairs, because you can't
Yeah.
use PayPal. You have to use a credit card. And I don't
Hmm.
like that. I like
Yeah.
using a third party
Yeah.
service when I buy. But I
Hmm.
thought I got to order that in just so I can test it and see.
I I think they're the best.
Do
I think,
you get
yeah.
it? Have you tried them?
Oh, yes. It in fact it's the only crochet of the month that I have kept. I've canceled everything else and I keep that.
Do you
And they've
like that
got
over Annie's hook and
uh
needle? You like it?
no, I like Mary Maxim much better than Annie's. Much, much
Yeah, I'm
better.
going to have to subscribe, because
Yeah,
I seen it and I
hands
thought I
down.
got to order that in and just review it and get an
Hmm.
idea of what it is. It's a
Yep, hands
shawl or
down.
something this month, isn't it? Like a,
I don't know. I haven't got mine yet.
oh,
I made the mistake of pausing it because I'm not going to buy any more stuff because I've got plenty of things. So I paused it, and then I saw people opening it. I'm like, I need my bed. I need my. So I called them and started it up again. But um, with I was trying to think. Okay, so I'm doing my Annie's. This Christmas blanket is one of their
samplers.
yeah, and every month you get the next thing. They are so bloody expensive. This thing, is he outside? This thing is going to end up being over $300 for a basically a crib size blanket when you're done,
Oh man.
because it's $30 a month and you get three lines every month. And there's 10 of them plus the border. Now, you do get a written pattern, which I love, and you have access to their video tutorials, which I love. So this one stitch that I couldn't figure, I think it was the star stitch that I couldn't figure out because I was putting my hook in the wrong place when I started. I did go in there, but let's be honest, what stitch is not available somewhere on YouTube to learn how to do,
Yeah.
right? So they're ridiculously expensive. And they're of the month things all tend to run in the $25 to $35 range. Mary Maxim's are, I think it's 22 bucks including shipping. It's very reasonable. It's much,
Yeah.
much cheaper. And then, so I get that one and I'm signed up for the blanket of the quarter, which with shipping ends up being $35.
I
For,
signed up for the one, it was a mosaic Afghan, and I did the first two kits, and
Mhm.
then I got sidetracked. I paid 20, was it 20 some dollars, over $20 a month
Yeah.
shipping. And then I
And
I
shipping.
thought, well, I'm going to do it and show an update. So I increased it to every 2 weeks.
Hmm.
I didn't have time to do it. So I have all those kits here and
Yep.
laying in the envelope because I didn't get back
Yep.
to them. It was
Yep.
over 200 and some dollars, and I didn't
Yeah.
even finish the
Yeah.
after.
Yeah. And I did the crochet one and the knit one because I'm learning to knit. And so I've got a bucket in my bedroom with all of those. I mean, because those envelopes, I didn't even open the one I got the other day. Where is it? But each envelope is about this big. They're about this size. And I've got all the ones in there for the crochet and then a separate one with the knit ones. So I don't lose them.
Well, how long have you been subscribed to Mary Maxim monthly kit? Have you gotten it enough to know that you like the projects, the
Love
yarn?
them. Love them. Now, here's the thing with Mary Maxim, because Hirschner's also has one.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They just started. I got the first month and the second month, and I canceled it on the third month. And I'll tell you why. Because I've got the comparison of them all now. So Annie's is too expensive, but you've got good instructions and good good help if you need it. Mary Maxim is very affordable, a good variety of projects, and sometimes you'll get like two projects in one kit.
Oh,
And usually you'll get, not usually, often you'll get one where there's three or four patterns. It's like, here's our main pattern, and here's a couple extra we're just going to throw in.
oh, wow.
Now, the downfall with Mary Maxim is often the yarn that they have put in there is something made special for that kit or it's discontinued. So if you run out, you are out of luck. You can't get more. I always swatch when I'm doing a Mary Maxim kit. It's about the only time that I swatch is if I'm making a wearable or doing a Mary Maxim kit.
Now,
Usually,
have you ever run out of yarn with a Mary Maxim kit?
I have not, because I always swatch.
Oh, okay.
Now, actually, that's not true. Well, but that was my own fault. One time they sent me that beautiful Red Heart Hugs. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful yarn. And it's on sale a lot of places right now. And I keep going, don't buy it, don't buy it, don't buy it.
It's
It
so
is
soft.
so soft and such a dream to work with. But I was making a baby blanket for a boy and I wanted it bigger. And they sent me two balls of that, and two patterns in one kit. And one was pinky colors and one was blues and grays. Well, I only wanted to use the blues and grays. So I did this, and then I stole from this one to make it put a border on it and make it bigger. But I made hats and cowls out of the other one. So I got 4 projects out of that one kit.
Wow.
I was very, very pleased with it. So that's my overview of Mary Maxim. They are my hands down favorite. I was so excited when Hirschner's came out with one. And Hirschner's is very inexpensive. I want to say it's $15 plus, the shipping. So probably 20 bucks all in. No, maybe it's 25 all in. But here was my problem with it. The first one came and it was great. And I priced out the yarn, and it's yarn they still carry on their site. So if you've got a problem, you can get it. It wasn't a value. It was no discount for having bought the kit. Second month, exact same thing. I could have bought the items separately and paid the same amount. Third month, exact same thing. So I quit it because for me, if I'm buying a kit from somewhere, there has to be a value of I've gotten more than what I can pay, individually for. And maybe that's just me. That's my thought process.
But it came with a pattern though, right?
Well, yes, it comes with the pattern and all the yarn you need. And I didn't finish any of the projects because I used the yarn for other stuff. But they were very nice patterns and very nice projects. So
Mary Maxim wins.
Mary Maxim wins hand down. And I've told that to people a million. I mean, how else could you buy a blanket? And it's not a tiny blanket. They're nice size blankets, but a blanket kit for $35, including shipping. Yeah. And the yarn, I mean, it's got prism yarn in it. It's got nice yarn. It's not cheap yarn. And that's the thing with the Hirschners. I'm not saying it's cheap yarn, but I believe, and this is going from memory now, I believe the yarn that was in the kits was almost exclusively their Hirschners brand, which is on sale all the time and comes in a million colors. So the value of the kit was there, but I didn't feel like I was saving money by buying the kit. So I'm just going to buy the colors and the patterns and the yarn that I want for projects I've hand chosen. Does that make more sense? I think that's
so. It's like the chart. Well, if you add up the yarn, you're not saving any money on the yarn. So the pattern is where you're losing your value. They add the pattern and make it look like it's worth all that money when you can just buy the yarn.
Yeah, you just buy it and use whatever pattern you want.
Yeah.
So, but they're good. They're good kits. And the major benefit is if I run out of yarn or I want to make this bigger, I can just go online to Hirschner's. And I did. The one I was making a blanket and one of the colors in it I didn't care for. They had a purple in the exact same yarn. I went online. I bought more yarn. I bought the purple, and I'm happy as a clam. I could have just done that to start with.
I'm going to have to check them both out now. But you really have my peak interest on Mary Maxim. I've seen it and twice now. And again, I'm on the third floor. So when I finally get up here and climb all those steps, it's like takes me 15 minutes to catch my breath. I said, I'm not going back downstairs. So,
gosh. A couple of months ago, Annie's and Mary Maxim both had all of their kits where you get it and you just pay shipping. And I bought one of everything. And I was surprised they let me buy it because I've already bought several of the kits. They let me do it. And I bought one of every kit they had. And because I wanted to try out everything. I bought the knit ones. I bought the crochet ones. I bought there was some home decor stuff. There was Christmas ornaments. And, Morgan's doing the painting things. And there was fabric in there. And that.
Ooh, yeah, they have everything. I remember that. I did a video on it. And
you got some of the same ones I got.
I should have ordered in some more. But then I try to be careful. Because you can get carried away with how many monthly subscriptions you have.
Well, I canceled them all. And I did the free month and then I canceled everything. And I got yelled at from people on here. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is advertising for them. They know you're going to do
but this. A lot of people do that. A lot of people do it.
But I wanted to see what they were. And I know I'm not going to sit and paint these home decor things, but I wanted to see what it was like. And the Christmas ornaments are adorable, but not for $35 a month.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I wanted to see.
Well, that's a good way of knowing. You order every kit in, you see if the value's there, and if it's not, then you cancel. So, it's Winnie's choice to send you a free kit, and that's why they do it, to see if you like it. Now, I'm really behind on my Annie's kits. They send them to me for free. Well, the hook and needle and the carrot club.
I love that one.
Free so I can review them. But then I choose to give them away because a lot of people can't afford it. Some of them I really wish I could make, but then I choose to give them away. So, but Mary Maxim I might do for myself. I would, like to get it, try it, see if there's enough yarn and really give it in-depth review. And
Mhm.
when I just show the kit and show what's in it and give it away, it's really not giving the consumer a true
Yeah.
aspect of the kit unless I actually make it.
Right. Right.
So if I make it, then I can't give it away. So
Right. Well, but you could. I mean, who is it? Oh my gosh, she's gonna be. Is it Jeannie? Oh my gosh, yeah, a Jeannie from On the Hook Crochet. And in fact, I want. Let me look real quick. I think she's my guest next week. Let me look real quick here. I've got it set already. Yes, Jeannie from On the Hook Crochet. More than once, I have seen her make up something, start to make up something, and say, "Okay, I'm giving away the yarn to finish this project, and I've already started it. Here you go."
oh wow.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
didn't think
and
anybody
she'll
would.
say that. She'll say, tear it out, start it over, finish, go in with it, whatever you want. Here you go. But yeah, I know what you mean though. I know what you mean. Beth, you're never too late. KB, I hear you there. Nothing comes free except for what everybody else. And Dina, I wanted to address your comment about wool. No, Mary Maxon, it is not mostly wool. It is mostly acrylic. I did get a blanket kit, and I was just talking to Morgan about that this morning. I did get a blanket kit that was all Prism yarn. Well, Prism is hand wash only. I am not making a blanket out of hand wash only yarn. I think that's gonna become a sweater for me, because at a blanket quantity, it is definitely a sweater quantity. And it's gorgeous yarn. It is beautiful yarn, but yeah, I'm not making a hand wash only blanket. Not in this house. You saw Max crawling up here. He doesn't care if something needs to be hand washed or not. Trust me.
Well, I'm
So,
amazed at some of these really large yarns they're coming out with. The great,
mhm.
what was it? I Like Big Yarn from Lion Brand. Hand wash, lay flat to dry. Really, the yarn's like I think it's $16, $17 a skein. It was
Mhm.
20 at Joann's.
Yeah.
It's like if you wanted, you know how people were making those big.
Yeah, the big blankets. Yeah.
First of all, how could you afford it? And if you got that thing wet and you had to lay it flat to dry,
Yeah.
what are they
Where
thinking?
are you gonna lay it flat?
It's like I'm really surprised at how popular hand dyed yarns are, that the yarn companies aren't coming up with a solution to give the acrylic, the people who like affordable yarns,
Mm-hmm.
an alternative by coming out with a line of yarns that look hand dyed but aren't. Or,
Well,
well, you know what I mean? Or
yeah,
they
I
have,
do know what you mean. And now Hobby Lobby has, and I don't know anything about it, so I am making comments without any fact base behind it right now here. They have a line, and it's their is it their own company? I think it's their own brand of hand dyed yarns. I got 3 or 4 of them in the big sell off. I just I'm sure they can't say it's hand dyed if it isn't, but I wonder what the qualification for hand dyed is, because they're making thousands of them. And some lady isn't sitting there going like this with it. So
yeah.
it's the term hand dyed. I wonder what the rules are for that. And I actually saw somebody do um, a video about that exact question, and she compared it to some true, actual hand dyed small batch stuff. And she's like, it's not as good of in these categories. It's not as good as, but when it's on sale, it's $10 a skein.
Yeah.
You know,
I know Lion Brand. I just seen this morning they have a brand new yarn out. It's in the ice cream line, but they say they use a spray dyeing technique. I can't remember the name of the yarn. I only seen it for a few seconds, but it's a brand new ice cream, one of their ice cream yarns, and it's sprayed. They say it's spray painted or something, where it gives
interesting.
it a real unique look. But
Mm-hmm.
they showed the yarn and the colors, but they had nothing to show me what it looked like worked up. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, and that's one of the reasons I started Yarn Swatch. So I'll probably have to get on and
Yes.
order that yarn, but they're in the middle of moving their warehouses. So it's like,
Oh.
would I get it right away or would I have to wait or,
Mm-hmm.
so, but yeah, brand new yarn out.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because, and we just touched on this before. your videos where you do the swatches and show what yarns look like done up, that is my favorite segment because I can't go out and buy every yarn. And that's the downfall of, well, not only yarns in stores, but more so yarns on that you buy online, is because you can't touch them, you can't feel them, you can't love on them before you buy it, and you don't know what they're going to look like worked up. And I am surprised. I'm not shocked. I'm surprised how different the same yarn looks like when it's worked up in a crochet and a knit. They
Yeah.
look, sometimes they look like totally, completely different yarns. And that, when you do those, I mean, and I'm guilty. I don't have time to watch every video of every person I want to. You're
Right.
on my list of don't miss. And I probably have a dozen people that no matter what, I'm finding their videos. But those ones are, I watch them because a lot of them, you're playing them in the background while you're doing 30 other things. But I watch those every time. They are my favorite videos.
And it is expensive to buy every, I mean, sometimes I want to do a yarn swatch video and I think, oh my God, there's 13 colors.
Yeah.
And then I'll say, okay, I'll pick 6 or 7.
Mhm.
And, but even when I do the yarn swatch, it's amazing how different I can take the same yarn, but depending on what stitch pattern I
Mhm.
use, would look completely different. And I've
Yeah.
said it so many times, there's one yarn in particular that I'm really frustrated with, and that's the Lion brand ice cream yarn in the color Bunny Tracks. Now,
Really?
I've seen a video where a woman made a design and it was absolutely gorgeous. So I ordered the yarn and I thought, I love that colorway. I'm going to make something. And I think I tried 6 times and I
Wow.
just did not like how the yarn was coming out for the stitch patterns. And I still haven't found a stitch pattern that works with that yarn. And that's the frustrating part, that when you get a yarn that you love the colors, you have to play around with different stitch patterns, and it might take you a while,
Mhm.
because I hate when you make something, and especially if it's a multicolored yarn, and like all the blues stay on this side and all the
Yeah, yeah.
on this side. It's like, oh, that is so ugly. Why can't I get the colors to like just be unified in
Mhm.
certain points? So then you have to change your stitch pattern. And
Mhm.
that's just one colorway.
Yeah.
It's still sitting here on my shelf.
Yeah,
One of these
Bloom.
days.
Bloom is the same thing. It's
Yeah.
made for knitting. It's just, I mean, that's just the bottom line. It's made for knitting. And it looks pretty in crochet. If you do a single crochet, you're getting as close to the look it was intended to be. I ain't single crocheting anything. Miss Morgan is making a hat out of single crochet, and I'm like, dude, how you should
I bought the
you talk to
Premier.
me first.
I bought the Premier Bloom Chunky, and I showed the Afghan I made in Tunisian knit stitch. It looks beautiful. The pattern is exactly
Oh.
the way it's supposed to be. And it was chunky. And when I went to put the border on, I'm either going to have to wet that whole entire top and bottom and block it because it rolls.
Oh
I
yeah.
not
Tunisian rolls terribly.
not get that border. Now, I've done a lot of Tunisian Afghans, and I've never had one this bad where I couldn't get my border
Really?
to lay flat. Because usually when you crochet the border, if you make a wider border, the weight of the yarn
Mhm.
comes back. It's not happening with this. So that blanket's over here,
Yeah.
thrown in a tub, and
Yeah.
I've been
Time out.
so disappointed because I think, okay, just bind it off and make it look like this and don't put a border on it. Well, my training, the editors at Crochet Fantasy said, Glenda, an Afghan isn't finished unless it has a border on it.
Mhm.
It makes it look more professional. So ever since they made that comment to me, I don't make too many Afghans without putting a border on. And I know there's some beautiful Afghans out there that don't have borders. And when you're learning how to crochet, that's the one thing that people are afraid of, those borders going around the
Mhm.
corners, making their
Yeah.
borders. And I mean, even I have trouble sometimes, sometimes I try to plan it out before I make the Afghan. Sometimes I just make the Afghan the width I want, and then I might be 1 or 2 stitches off for a certain border. And then you
Mhm.
got to figure out how to incorporate that border. But yeah, that blanket, just, I'm so frustrated with it, and it's so pretty. It's just so gorgeous. But what do you do with something like
Yeah.
that? I don't want to wet the whole thing and block it and then have it
Oh,
like,
no, that
you
would
know,
be bad.
yeah. So it's
Uh,
it's sitting there waiting for me to figure out
but
some
I'm glad
creative.
you said that because I do have some. I bought a kit from probably Mary Maxim, and the kit was on sale. Check this out. I paid $7.99 for a kit that had 4 skeins of bloom yarn in it. I'm like, yes. That's the other thing, you guys. If you see a kit that's on sale, but you don't like the pattern, you just want the yarn, just buy it. Just buy it. And you can call them and they'll tell you how many skeins is in that kit.
Oh
I got
wow,
a kit one time that had 10 skeins of yarn in it, and I paid less than $30 for it. I
oh
just wanted the yarn. I just
wow.
wanted the yarn. But yeah, so I bought 2 of those of the bloom yarn in those kits, the baby blanket, and of course the baby blanket's this big. I want a baby blanket when I'm making it. Um, so and at first I was just going to crochet it and just let it be, but now that I'm learning how to knit, I might knit it. But now that you're talking Tunisian,
Tunisian knit stitch is so easy. Now, to me,
mhm,
if I had the choice to redo it, I think I would buy the regular worsted and not the
yeah, that's what
chunky.
this is.
The chunky is beautiful worked up in the Tunisian knit stitch. Very easy stitch to do, and you get that same knit look. But I think that if I would have got the thinner yarn, I wouldn't have had so much of a problem because the chunky yarn is so thick, it makes the rolling
Mm,
worse. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think I would have stuck with the regular weight instead of the chunky. But
Mhm.
what do you do?
Right.
It
And the bloom
turned
I
out
got in those,
beautiful until the end.
right. The bloom I got in those kits is definitely the worsted weight, but I got some chunky. Where did I buy it? I think I got it at the Hobby Lobby, the big sale. And I maybe got 4 or 5 of them. There, what I bought what they had, which wasn't a lot. So I'm thinking, and I'm glad you told me that. So I'm thinking that might, and chunky knits up quick too. So that might be a good blanket to knit up real quick with that chunky bloom yarn. Oh, I bet that'll be pretty, 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 pretty. The other thing I can't wait to try is the polka dot one. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know this. Glenda and I connected because I won one of her giveaways, and it was the polka dot yarn, and I got 6 skeins of beautiful, beautiful polka dot yarn, which I haven't done anything with because that's how I roll, and because I don't know what to do with it, and but it's so pretty. It is so pretty, and so that's how Glenda and I connected to start with, and I am thinking, of course, I'm like you. I'm always thinking Afghan, and I don't want it big, want it big. But that's such pretty yarn. And I think I'm going to do some kind of a stripy thing because it's 2 different colorways. And I didn't realize it till I was really looking at it. One's got more pink in it and one's got more orange in it. But I think they'll look fine together
Mixing
if
them
I,
so many
yeah,
rows of one color and
mhm,
then the next
yeah,
color. Yeah.
so many rows like that. Yeah, because it reminds me of sprinkles on ice cream. It's just so pretty.
I ordered that in and I forgot I was going to make a baby blanket out of it because I wanted something delicate but pretty.
Hmm.
And I just, this is terrible because I order yarn in and I throw the boxes on the side till I get to it. And then I go online and I think, boy, I thought I ordered that. And then I have to
Hmm.
search around and like, geez,
Yep.
I already have it. And then,
Hmm.
I have too many ideas and not enough time to get.
Bingo.
And
That is each and every one of us.
these new yarns, they get you so inspired, and then you get them in and then they just sit there. Okay, I got to finish this, I got to finish that, but I want to use that. And it's like,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm amazed at some of these kits. I get them from Annie's all the time, and I'll open it up and it'll show this beautiful baby blanket, and it's 3 skeins of yarn.
Yeah,
And
it's this big. Yeah.
yeah, when I first done my channel, I was trying to put kits together. I was
Mhm.
trying to like make designs, and then if somebody wanted to make it, I would sell the kit.
Mhm.
And it's like I was never able to make a baby blanket out of 3 skeins of yarn.
No.
I'm sorry, but and then you look at the instructions, it's only 23 inches across. So,
Great.
right.
I will. And it's like this.
Is that
so
like
frustrating
a
to me.
baby doll blanket for a
Yeah,
toy doll?
exactly. They left off the word doll. This blanket here, this is the $300 Annie kit blanket.
Ooh,
You know, it's this wide, you guys. It's this wide.
it's
That's it.
pretty.
It
You're,
doesn't even go from arm to arm. Yeah.
oh, it doesn't?
No, I can't. It
I
goes
only
from,
see part of
I
it.
know. So this is spread out middle, and then this is the rest of it. So it's
Wow.
one arm and a foot.
But you're learning, it looks like there's a lot of different stitch techniques in
There's,
this
and
one
that's why I bought it.
to
Was
learn
because
different.
every row is a different stitch. And that's the reason I got this thing. See, you guys are up to date now. This is my Finish It Friday project. My
Now, see,
friend Miss Dina, Dana from Wonderlust Crochet, she calls this my watermelon blanket. It's my Christmas blanket. But
well, see, there's a lot of work in trying to figure out. Somebody asked me to do a blanket like that, and they were trying to put one together. And she says, "Tell me which stitch of the weeks I need to make a blanket like this." And I thought, you
yeah,
know what? You don't realize how much work that would be to sit down and try to figure out
yeah.
the different stitch multiples in order to make a
Oh,
blanket come out
yes,
that way. So
yeah.
they,
But what I want to know, and I'm going to call Annie's and find out because I like this, but I want it bigger. And so I'm going to ask them if there's a multiple to make this thing bigger. And I'll bet you the answer is going to be no.
it,
And the
it
only way, yeah, the only
it
way I'm going to be able to make this bigger is just lots of borders.
well, they'll tell you no because every stitch pattern has a different multiple. I
Right,
guarantee it.
right.
So they had to figure out a way,
Mhm.
unless they picked stitch patterns that all had the same multiple. Now,
And
if
they
you know how to figure out a
marry
stitch
Rachel.
multiple,
No.
oh,
Are you going to teach us something amazing?
I actually did a video on that. So what I do when I try to figure out a stitch multiple, and sometimes you can figure out in the first row, but sometimes the multiple is clear up several rows where the
Uh-huh.
pattern starts. So if you get a piece of paper, and I'm just going to use small numbers.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys,
So,
listen up. This is gold here.
okay, we'll go with 10 stitches. So I
Okay.
make 10 dashes across my paper.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can figure this out in my head. I probably won't. So the first dash, I'm going to put an X for a single crochet.
Okay.
And then I'll write a 2 under that because I know that if I'm starting with a single crochet, I'm going to put it into the second chain from hook.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, when you usually do a single crochet, you start in the second chain from hook.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that was a double crochet, then I would have had to skip. Well, I would have put a long line and then added 3 circles up the side for my first 3 chains. So we're starting with the thing. I don't want to confuse anybody. Okay. X in the first block and a 2 under it means that stitch starts in the second stitch. And then I'll put a long line for a double crochet in the next stitch. An X in the next slash is a single crochet in the next stitch. And then a long double crochet in the next one. So a long line, an X in the next one for a single crochet. Take that to the end of the row.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to end on a double crochet, isn't it? If I'm thinking.
Yes, it did.
Okay, well then you have to add an extra slash and put a single crochet because we want to start with a single crochet and end with a single crochet.
Okay.
So then we have, so what would that be?
That's 11 stitches.
11 stitches. So then what you do is you look at your stitch pattern. So you have a single crochet in the beginning and a single crochet in the end. So we're going to start with the double crochet. So then I'll mark a line underneath the double crochet and then I'll see, okay, it's a 2 stitch repeat. You have a double crochet and a single crochet. So then I draw a line underneath the single crochet and then I follow the pattern down. So if you follow the pattern down, you're going to see that the double crochet, single crochet is your multiple because you're repeating the same 2 stitches across your work. And then you're going to have your last stitch of the single, Okay, no, you're ending with a single crochet.
Mm-hmm.
So your okay, this one comes out as a stitch multiple of 2. So you're starting in the second chain, but then your stitch multiple is 2. So the stitch multiple for that pattern would be 2.
2 plus whatever your beginning chain is.
Well, because the beginning chain is 2, you start with the
2 plus
second
2.
chain. Yeah, so that wasn't really what I was trying to figure out. I wanted one that had a multiple of like 2, but then you had to add like 3 stitches.
Mm-hmm.
But that is kind of how.
Well, there's a way. There's a formula for doing this.
Yes, and if you do it on paper and just use, X's for single crochet and a line for double crochet, and if it's a shell stitch, just kind of do your own type of like drawing of where you're putting the stitches, and then you just look for where the pattern repeats. If it starts at the shell and then you do 5 more stitches, then you count how many stitches, and then you make sure it's repeating the same stitches over and over, and then you count how many stitches is in that repeat. And then you have to you write down your multiple if it's a multiple of 5, and then you have to look, because some patterns will have it end with 2 stitches, 3 stitches. If you have a multiple of 5, it might end with 3 stitches on the end, and then you have 3 stitches in the beginning. So then some people say, well, you have a multiple of 5 plus 8. Well, I do that because sometimes if you write a multiple of 5 plus 3, it might not come out, just pending. So I always write the multiple of what it is in the center, and then I add what stitches are left on the end and how many it took to start before the pattern repeated. So if you do that, now they look like pretty simple stitches in that Afghan. So, I think that you might be able to figure that out on your own.
Probably the only one would be the star stitch that I'd really have to struggle with a little bit.
Yeah, because believe it or not, there was probably a lot of work in that blanket determining how to put those stitch patterns together. But yeah, there's always a way to figure out the stitch multiple, and you've got to make sure you go clear up the pattern to where you get the full repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of these, it's like, 2 doubles, 2 change, skip 2, 2 doubles, 2 change, skip. You just keep going. That's no big deal.
You might be able to start at the bottom at the simple stitch and then just make it wider.
I was just going to say.
And if you have to eliminate a stitch pattern.
No star stitch for you. Yeah, because the first one is literally a row of double crochets.
Well, see, if you want to make it bigger, you cannot start with that one. You have to. I'm making a lot of sense, ain't I? You would have to go up to, let me see that blanket down on the bottom. You start with the double crochet, and then what's the next stitch pattern? Where's there a stitch?
I think we just did a loop in the front loop, because you've got that ridge across. I think it's half doubles with the loop in front.
So that looks like a multiple of 2, 2. So then what's the next stitch pattern?
It is double crochets.
The star stitch.
Skipping every other one. No, just skipping every other one. Double, and then the star stitch, the bloody star stitch. That's the only thing that I had problems with on this.
Well, you might be able to look up those stitch patterns. I think I have the stitch pattern on my website. If you see those stitch patterns on Stitch of the Week on my website, my stitch patterns have the multiples in the stitch pattern. I always give the stitch multiples for my Stitch of the Week. So if you
can pay more attention,
if you can match those stitches with any of the Stitch of the Week, my stitch multiples will be on there, which would really help you.
Yeah.
With
this
that.
Is my favorite. This has been, although this was fun too. This is my favorite one, which is and
post.
Yeah, it's a front post double, and then you would flip it over and then do a back post, but it wasn't like alternating. So all the ribs ended up on this side, and then this side ended up flat.
Oh.
And I loved it. And it was a good thing because I did it 4 times because I kept messing it up. Because if you make a mistake in there, it jumps right out at you.
Yeah.
And then the one time I did it backwards, so my ribs ended up on the back of the blanket.
But that's the fun of some of these blankets. It's teaching you those techniques.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like I'm going to get way more value out of the knit one because I'm going to learn all the different, where most of these I kind of either already know or it was no big deal to learn, like this thing. That was
Yeah.
a second of but Miss Morgan and my granddaughter saw this and they're like, we want to make this. And I'm like, what a fun project for us. And so what we're going to do, because the grand is in on the coast, Morgan lives here, and then the other sister lives on the other side of town, and she's got two littles. So we're going to do a weekly Zoom meeting and we're going to
Oh,
learn how to do all the different stitches.
well, that's fun.
How fun is that? So I'm making yet another one of these blankets. It'll be my third one
Wow.
because
See,
I'm actually
people ask me, Glenda, will you make a blanket? Can I pay you to make a blanket for me? I say no, I don't. I'll make a blanket once and that's it.
right.
I can't make a blanket twice. I don't know.
This is the first. This is back in the day. Every year on Super Bowl Sunday, I would pick a pattern and I would work on that one blanket all year. I only worked on one item at a time. I know none of you guys believe this. I worked on one thing every year, and all throughout the year I would work on, because I work full time and I had kids and a house and blah 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 blah, all the things. And so I just crocheted occasionally. And by Christmas, somebody in the family circle got that blanket. Nobody knew who was going to get it. And everybody was super surprised at Super Bowl. It's like, okay, what's this year's blanket?
How
What's
did
this
you
year's
decide
blanket?
who you were going to give it to? Draw names out of a hat?
No, it was nothing that I probably had, and I can't remember now, but I probably had somebody in mind when I started it, or maybe somebody mentioned, oh my God, I adore those colors. And every time they saw me, they loved how it looked. And so, they're the ones that got the blanket that year. But the other thing I made, and it was always a different blanket, the other thing I made was Christmas tree skirts. And I found a pattern I liked, and everybody, and I mean everybody, got one of those Christmas tree skirts. And I bet you I still have mine out in that box of old Christmas stuff out there somewhere. But as people grew up, as I met friends, if I got someone in the Christmas draw at work, you knew you were getting one of these Christmas tree skirts. I probably made 40 or 50 of them.
Oh, see,
And
I could never make the same thing that many times.
nowadays I can't. I
I
think I think I'm gonna make. I'm like, oh, I love this pattern. I'll make one for me and one for my daughter, and when I'm done, I'm done. I don't ever want to see it again. I move. Well, and part of it's because we have 3,000 patterns we want to make, so we got to
yeah.
move on to the next one. But I think maybe, the reason this one isn't bothering me is because everything is different. So it's not the same, and I haven't finished one yet. This is the farthest one I've gotten, and I started it, and somebody online had said they bought this kit and they wanted to make one for themselves and one for a friend, but they knew if they finished one, they'd never make the other one. So she started them both at the same time.
Oh,
And that's what I did with this. I started the kit, the official kit, which is in the plumberry color. So it's burgundy and pink and beige. It's really pretty. And I replicated the Christmas one the best I could. I think I did a pretty good job. And so this one was going to be for a friend, and I was keeping the plumberry one. And my thought process was, I'll do the row in the plumberry first, so I've got it figured out. Then I'll do the one that's going to be for my friend for a Christmas present. And then the big move happened, and I didn't work on any of this stuff for a long time. Well, somebody was getting on me about getting my Finish It Friday stuff. So I thought, all right, I'll pull one project out. And this is the one I happened to pull out. And so I'm actually getting farther on this one. And then when the girls saw it, so I'm not sick of it yet. And when the girls saw it and they both want to make one, I'm like, okay, I'm not so far into this. I'm only 10 rows in. So I'm not so far into this that I feel like, oh, I'm sick to death of this thing. And I'm doing one section a week. So I'm learning that stitch really well.
Well,
So
that's the way with my Santa toilet paper cover. I did that way back when I was younger doing the
yeah.
craft fairs, and I'd make them up, put them in the clear cellophane with little ribbons on them. And I made so many of them that it
Mhm,
just took the fun out of it. I mean, I
mhm.
couldn't make them fast enough. I mean, even if I started making them right now, I wouldn't be able to make enough for as many as I could sell.
Yeah,
And it was such a cute pattern. Everybody wanted them. And it's like now I look at it, I think I'd love to make one, but it
you
just
can't do it.
I just took I made so many. It's like I don't even want to look at it.
Mhm. And I did buy a couple of patterns for tree skirts that look really really pretty, and I bought some of the Soho Hirschner's Soho. Is it the Soho? Maybe not. They've got a line of Christmas
It's either
stylized yarn. It's got,
Burns or Mary Maxim. Somebody sells
yeah,
this.
somebody does, and they've got the red and the green and the white, and it's all got a little bit of silver shot through it. And I thought, oh my gosh, that would look beautiful in those tree skirts. And the tree skirt has a little pine tree crocheted in the outside edge of it. Really way different from the ones I made, which were red, white, green, red, white, green. Here's your tree skirt. And red heart yarn, because that's all I could afford. But even I think of these people that do the booths, the craft booths, and they've made 100 hats, and they've made 100 headbands, and they've made 100 scarves. And I'm just like, I couldn't do it. I'd get one, maybe two, and I'm like, oh, I'm bored. Time to move on.
If I had one of those machines that Crystal on Bag a Day uses, she bought. I watch her. She makes hats in like a couple minutes. That I could probably where you crank it and it
Okay.
like knits
Yes,
the hat.
I
Now
have
that I
one.
could.
I have one. And
Okay.
it's the running joke around here because I haven't opened the box. And so everybody teases me that I say good morning to my knitting machine as I walk by it every day. And I have made a commitment to Amber at Foster and Crochet that I will get it opened, not necessarily make anything, but get the thing opened by this month. Well, guess month. We're bumping that to September, and it still may not happen.
Yeah, I
Um,
bought one of those AccuQuilt cutting machines. I had the big studio die cutter and I was using that and I was making quilt tops and selling the pre-cut quilt pieces. That was years
oh,
ago. I wore it out and then my
mhm.
husband custom made me a press to use my dies because I didn't
Oh,
want to buy another.
wow.
And then that was so big I kept stubbing my toe on the end
Mhm,
of it. I said, get that thing out of here. So I bought the
mhm,
little one, just a suitable one for myself.
mhm.
It's still in the box, and I bought it
Yeah,
like 6 months ago.
yeah.
It's like, come on, find the time, find the time to do
Well, and
something.
it's not even finding the time. It's I know there's a learning curve. I have watched people struggle with these things when they first get them. Um,
The knitting
oh,
machine.
yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
They're very temperamental. And I got the Addie Beth. That's the one I got. I got the Addie. Is it the King, the bigger one? And I did the same thing. I found it on a 40% off clearance sale. I ordered the thing. I couldn't have it delivered where I was in Texas because it couldn't be a PO box. So I had it shipped up here. So it sat here for 6 months till I got home. And I've only been home since the end of April. And we've moved and unpacked. And I really am just getting settled. I don't have a yarn room. I have one shelf in my bedroom. Now, granted, it's a big shelf. And me and my grandson and Mister built that shelf. And it's 8 feet tall and 6 feet wide. And I've just got it organized. And there's my knitting machine. In fact, I measured the bottom shelf so the knitting machine in the box would fit in there.
does that
And
only make hats? Or does it
you can
make
make hats, you can make scarves. Supposedly it'll do a flat panel. I have seen some gorgeous blankets where people have made like so it's a double-sided blanket, and they basically made a scarf and then sewed
so?
them, used a mattress stitch and sewed them together. So you've got a panel, you've got a thing about, I don't know, I think the scarves are probably this wide, and they make 6 or 8 of them. And But they're using like one skein of yarn for a panel and using multiple colors or all the same. And I saw one lady do, how when you lay flooring and you have to offset it so your lines not, so she did it like that. And so the black was here and a gray was here and then a darker. It was the most beautiful blanket. It was gorgeous. And then she, sews the ends up and put a couple tassels on the corners and you got a blanket. I've seen people do that same process and make a sweater. It would make a gorgeous Rowana doing that. Or
Well, I wondered if it only makes a tube shape.
No, you're supposed to be able to do a flat panel also. I've yet to see anybody who actually has done any, but I haven't spent a lot of time researching it.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
Lion Brand has one of the longer knitting machines, a tabletop where it just goes back and forth, where you push the paddle back and forth.
I had those.
A little expensive compared to what they used to be back when I used to have one like 40 years ago. Now it's like, do I want to pay $600? Would I use it? But then
they're tricky too.
Yeah.
And I don't, if you remember back in the day, I spent $2,000 on one of those things.
Wow.
Probably, I can remember buying it. So it was probably 20 years ago. I didn't go top of the line, but I bought a good one. And included in it was all the lessons, lifetime lessons. I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy this thing, lifetime lessons. The store closed down a week after I bought it. I never used it once because it's very complicated to set up. The little flippy things will flip on you and you'll drop stitches. And I think these knitting machines now are an offshoot of what those were meant to be. But I know you can make a flat panel on it. You just flip the little doohickey, and instead of going around, it goes around, and then it goes back, and it goes around, and it goes back. So then you've got a panel of yarn. And I mean, with your expertise, you could probably do 6 panels, lay them out. I've got a back panel. I've got 2 sleeves I'm going to fold. I've got 2 fronts I'm going to do, connect them together and then crochet and edging, and I've got a beautiful sweater.
Well, you're one up on me. You already have the machine. Get busy, girl.
Yeah.
Now, I think somebody put Beth said $175 for books and machine. Is she talking about the one you have, the round one?
No, you're not touching mine for that much money. It was, well, now. Oh, I think they're doing a little side deal on us. I think that's what's happening there. So I think someone's selling a machine. Yeah. So Beth bought one 3 years ago for Christmas, has never taken it out of the box. I've heard the books are not very good that come with it. Hey, Miss Linda, I didn't see you pop in. And so I didn't order the books because the reviews were just awful on the books. And I think on YouTube, there's 2 or 3 people who are very good, very prolific. And the Addie King. And
is that what it is? The Addie King? Is that what
Addie King? They also have an Addie, I don't know, what's the smaller one called? The 22 needle one. And that one you make socks. And oh my gosh, the most adorable. Every time I see these adorable stuffies, amigurumi type thing, they've used the little one, the mini, the 22. But they're expensive too. And I'm thinking, now remember,
it makes it so much faster. I mean,
so much faster. I'd love to pump out 10 or 15 hats and give them to everybody for Christmas. And how many times have you done a project and you've had 1 skein of yarn left or 1.5 skeins of yarn left? You stick it on that machine, boom, 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 you got a hat. Yeah. You're done.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to have to look into that because I watched Crystal and it looked like so much fun.
It is so much fun. And there's there's a lot of people doing it. And I'm trying to think, oh my gosh, you're going to just kill me. You're just going to kill me. Grammy, Charm Grammy Crochet. She's just learning and she's just getting hers figured out. There's also the Centra, which is, there's crappy ones, and then there's the Centra, and then there's the Addie. And the Centra one, you're going to be spending in the neighborhood of $100 to $150. The Addy you're going to spend in the neighborhood of $300. I got mine 40% off. That's the only reason I got it. And I bought it. That was my Christmas present last year. So honestly,
how'd you get the 40% off? Did you have a coupon or
no,
because some places
it's Hobium. Hobium yarns, they carry them. They're a major supplier for them. And I don't know how many times a year they'll do everything on their website is 40% off.
Oh wow.
And boom, you put it in your car. And I had missed that sale like 5 or 6 times. And I'll be danged if I didn't just hit it one day. I put it in my cart and I'm like, Mister, you're buying me my Christmas present because you know it'll be gone in a minute. And I've never been able to get the little one on that sale because they're always sold out. But I just lucked out that day and got it. And it was delivered here in less than a week.
I have to put that on my Christmas list.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Yep.
Well, what makes me mad is sometimes you'll get a coupon and it'll say 40% off. And then in the fine print, microscopic on the bottom, it excludes everything in the store. You know?
Anything you possibly want.
Yeah.
So instead of just saying, here, this yarn is on sale.
Yeah. Well, don't give me a coupon then say I can't use it on what I want.
I know. And
that has happened where, the print's so small and I get up there and then I buy it anyhow because I'm too embarrassed.
Yeah, because you're already there and yeah. I know. It's awful. It's awful. But yeah, and so I'm intimidated by my Addy. And I do know, I just know because I've watched a bunch of people do unboxings and then start using them. There is a learning curve. And here's the other thing about the Addy, and this is the same on any knitting machine that I've learned. They are very particular about what yarn they want to use. So you're not putting your chunky stuff through there. You're not putting your skinny stuff through there. They're made for worsted weight and maybe some 3-weights, maybe some DKs. And not every worsted weight, not even every color. Like it'll do just fine with this yarn, and I'll grab a different color of the same yarn and it won't work.
Really? So, is that the Addy?
Yes.
Do they make different machines for different weight yarn then?
Nope. I don't believe, probably somewhere, but for the main thing for these knitting machines,
the size of the needles going, you would have to keep with
the one weight. Now, is you guys that have used these, is that, I just saw somebody, let me flip back to this. Taylor says she's got both sizes of the Centras and they both work great and she loves them. And I think that is the case. Once you get this thing figured out, you're going to love it. But there's definitely going to be a learning curve with it. And I've learned a few things, like when they get going, you have to put some weight on the bottom. Otherwise, they pop off the needles. And it's nothing, major. You just put a few clips on there. And don't let it bunch up on the table. So it needs a place where it can come off of the table. So people have figured out these little workstations or something with a hole in it, or maybe a box where it hangs down. It's the counterweight. The counterweight pops it off of the needles at the top. So it's, there's going to be a learning curve. And I'm very, very excited. You wouldn't think I'm excited about it because I've got the thing sitting there staring at me, but I'm intimidated by it. And I don't want to look like a dork when I'm trying to do it.
Nobody's going to see if you practice.
Oh yeah, I'll film the whole thing because that's how I roll. Okay, so Taylor says she can use a 5-weight on her central. Hang on, let me pop this up here so I don't lose it. Okay, so she can use a 5-weight on her central, but you have to go slow so you don't drop your stitches. Okay, here's the other thing. And I talk about this as if I know what I'm talking about. I'm just watching videos. Just like everybody else. I'm watching the videos. So a lot of people, because you're doing this, right? You're doing this. Well, they make this attachment and hook it on, and then they stick a drill on there, and it's nee. Now the machine's going like this, nee, and you've whipped out a hat in an hour. And Bag of Day is doing the same thing. I've seen her do it. Most everybody I talk to uses the drill attachment because how long can you do this? And so and that's what she's saying. You got to slow down if you're using the 5 weights because if it's going too, and you can go too fast with those things and break them. I've seen people actually melt their attachment because it got too hot because they were going too fast.
Wow. I'd be afraid I'd drop a stitch using a drill. If you dropped a stitch.
There seems to be a happy spot where you can just go and, once you've got a yarn that works, and I mean, you don't do it right off. You do like 8 or 10 rows and then you attach the drill and go, and you go pretty slow. You don't go real super
Wow.
quick.
It still sounds like so much fun.
It does. And and to be able to, and changing colors looks fairly easy. I mean, I think literally you just wrap. I mean, it's not like where we have to tie it off and weave in ends, and because everything is double-sided, so all your ends are on the inside.
So why do you think nobody has created a crochet machine?
Oh, it's impossible. Well, and that's why you cannot buy machine crocheted, because it's impossible to duplicate.
Yeah.
Knitting can be duplicated. Simple stitches, simple patterns can be duplicated.
I'm going to learn how to knit. I have like 100 pair of knitting needles. Every time I go to a thrift store, it seems like you can always find knitting needles, but never crochet hooks. So
Right.
If I find really good knitting needles, I buy them. And I keep saying, learn how to knit, even if it's just a simple.
Yeah, you want to start with something simple. I, of course, have done it completely backwards and have started. I made a hat and it was terrible. It was terrible. It was the ugliest hat on the face of the earth. I wear it very proudly. It's bright pink, and you'll see it in a lot of my videos that I did when I was still in Texas. I had this bright pink hat on that I had made, and I showed you guys when I was making it, and I messed it up so bad. It doesn't look up. That's why I said the only way I'm ever designing a pattern is if I have mucked up the pattern so badly it doesn't look anything like the original. So I've got this ugly, horrible. It's not ugly. It's very cute, but it doesn't look anything like the pattern. So I made that hat, and I made another hat for my grandson, which turned out really well. And then I decided I was going to knit a blanket with every possible kind of stitch known to man, because that's how I roll.
Oh.
And then Connie from Just Another Stitch let me. I don't want to say ask, because it was more like, I want to do that. So she let me test one of her new patterns, and it was, I'm going to get it wrong. Somebody help me here. Karen, where are you? It's not mosaic. It's where you carry the yarn behind you as you're making this hat. And I'm using 3 different colors, and you're literally holding yarn in both of your hands while you're doing this thing. I didn't know how complicated. I didn't know to be afraid of it. I'm like, sure, I can do that. I did it. Turned out well.
That's you learn, though. That's a good thing.
You should know. It's a kind of color work. It's not Fair Isle, but it's one of those ones that you think of when you're thinking of Fair Isle. And it had candy canes all around it. I did the candy canes. It's like in Tarsa. It's like Fair Isle. It's the other one. It's the other word.
Mosaic?
No, it's not mosaic. I don't think it was mosaic, because you carry the yarn with you and you don't with mosaic. Maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't know better. I didn't know any better. So yeah, nothing simple for me. And I did one washcloth.
I see a comment from Linda Simpson. Linda, what's the name of your channel if you have knitting tutorials for beginners?
Her channel is Linda Simpson.
Oh, that's the name of her channel?
Yep. She's one of my buds. Linda's one of my buds.
I gotta write that down.
And she's an amazing knitter. She's an amazing teacher. And she has how to knit stuff on there. I want to say, and I didn't watch them because I felt like I already knew what she was teaching. But I want to say, Linda, you did a whole series of, you were making baby things for your doll, and the nappy cover, and it's so funny because the terminology English, so it's nappies instead of diapers, and the sweater they call them jumpers, and so you did. But the premise, and it's a great premise, is you're making small items so you can actually finish them instead of starting with a sweater. You're starting with a sweater, and so you can finish it, and you're learning all the same techniques. And of course, she's an amazing teacher, so highly, highly recommend. And the other thing I recommend, and this is me who knows nothing about anything, Start with maybe a 5 weight because,
To learn?
it crochets up faster. And don't start with metal needles. Use wood because they're less slippery and you
Oh,
won't drop your
really?
stitches. Hmm. I also found my knitting is going easier and better this time around because I have better supplies. I bought better quality supplies this time, and it's just easier.
I have to learn to knit. It's
Yeah,
my bucket list. But I go to these fiber festivals, and you'll see women sitting there with five of these little tiny,
the double pointed needles, DPNs.
like,
It says you're knitting with a toothpick, for God's
how
sakes.
do you? My brain couldn't even coordinate something like that, let
Mhm.
alone, could you imagine somebody trying to teach me that? So it's kind of like I already told myself, you'll never be able to do that before I would even try. And that's
Exactly.
what I have to overcome is my
Hmm.
fear of
Hmm.
you might be good at one thing, but I hate looking stupid.
Right,
And
and that's me in that silly knitting machine. Um,
yes, I'm going to definitely check out Linda
yeah,
Simpson's channel
Linda
because
Simpson. She's fabulous. She's
I
fabulous.
want to learn so
And
bad.
yeah, and
I don't think I have any wooden needles. I think all mine are aluminum and
yeah, get you some,
plastic.
go to Hobby Lobby or wherever, pay $6 or $7. Um,
So you're
for
saying start with a heavier weight to learn.
it's just like with crochet. When you're using a little heavier yarn, your stitch definition is easier,
Yeah.
finding your stitches is easier, manipulating, holding them is easier. And yeah, and that's the other thing. You can talk to Linda and she'll walk you through anything you need help with. Um,
Bamboo needles. Oh, I better write
Bamboo
that.
needles. Yep. Yep. Bamboo needles. Linda, is it the bamboo needles that does not like alpaca? I know the bamboo does not like one of the fibers. And it's the same thing with my crochet hooks. I can't use my wooden needles with that. It's funny. I think it's the natural fibers, but I could be wrong because they're both natural fibers. I don't know. I could very well be wrong. Who knows what
So
I'm talking about?
why do you recommend bamboo needles?
They're
I
not as
really
slick.
do.
They're not as slick, and so you're less likely to drop a stitch. You're less likely to. It'll slow you down a little bit, and it's
Well,
just they've got a little bit of grab to it. I mean, it's not like you're going to notice it when you're working on it, but you'll notice the difference um, when you. So when you want to go fast, you buy you some Addy rockets. Those things are like lightning, just like butter. I've seen people
is
go
that a name
turn
of a
it so fast that you can't even see the
is that
needles
a name
move.
of a knitting needle?
Mm-hmm.
What was it called? Silver rock,
Addy rockets.
Addy
It's the
rocket.
same company that does the knitting machine, the Addy.
Oh,
They've got a whole line of knitting needles and I think crochet hooks too, but it's called the Addy Rocket. And when you're going fast, you get you some Addy rockets. But yeah, go to the group. And this is the thing I find. I tell people don't buy used needles at the craft store because it's the old crappy ones. It's just like anything else.
so throw all the junk ones.
Don't throw them away because you may find a use for them. Yeah, that's it. So the bamboo has tiny, tiny little fibers because it's a natural plant and it just kind of grabs onto your yarn. Not so much that you're going like this, but it
Yeah, it's
slows
not
it down a little bit.
snagging it, but it
Yeah,
slows it down.
yeah,
Yeah.
slows it down and you're much less likely to drop. You're still going to drop stitches, but that's just part of the learning process. And
That
just so
might
you
be
know,
my next video, Glenda trying to learn how to
yeah,
crochet
yeah,
or to
how
learn
to
how
knit, Glenda knits. When we crochet, we frog. When we knit, we tink, which is knit backwards because you're unknitting.
oh, see,
Isn't that cute?
another whole language you have
Yes,
to
you get
learn.
to learn another whole language. And although you're going to find that chart reading transfers, pattern reading transfers, it's just different symbols or different, like it's a K for knit. Well, just like you have to know SC is single crochet and DBL is double crochet, you'll learn SC or K is a knit and a P is a purl and a YO is a yarn over. It's all this stuff. Okay, so Linda just put the link up to her beginning knitting stuff.
Okay.
Go for it. Go for it. You can do it. You can do it. I can help you.
This is awful to say for somebody who crochets for a living and does a YouTube channel. I love the look of knit better than I do crochet.
Yes. Oh, I do too.
Art.
They're different. It's not that they're one is better than the other. I feel knit looks more sophisticated. I
Yeah,
feel sweaters for sure
yeah,
are much nicer when they're knit. But there are some beautiful crochets. If you don't mind the chunky look, then sweaters are perfectly fine. Um, and there's a lot of sweaters I adore, but they and there's some things I look at and I'm like, there's no way I would ever knit that. Um, like like this, like this. You cannot tell me that this is not an absolutely beautiful, stunning piece of
yeah,
artwork.
yeah,
This would terrify me to knit. Linda can do something like this in her sleep, and it's not even hard. She's just like, oh,
yeah,
but I'll look at a pattern and I'll go, no way I would knit that. And I'll look at another pattern and go, no way I would crochet that because it's
yeah.
just not going to look right.
See, I feel like I have enough experience that no matter what pattern in crochet I found, I would be able to figure it out no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Knitting intimidates me. And
Knitting is
that's
intimidating.
because I don't know anything about it.
Mhm. And you just find us, and just like crochet, you find a simple pattern to start with. I don't know, washcloths. How many washcloths have we taught beginning crocheters
Yeah.
and beginning knitters? I like doing a washcloth because it's big enough to actually see what you're doing. But and when you're finished, you got something you can use. And if you mess it up, who cares? Because it's a washcloth. You're scrubbing your dishes with it, right?
I
So.
just wish there was somebody close to me. I like to be with somebody, like
Mhm.
remembering my Gram teaching me, Gram,
Yes.
why didn't you teach me how to knit? But
Yep.
to have somebody side by side and just the fun
Yep.
of it, which I
Mhm. And
thank,
adjusting your hand a little bit
yeah,
and teaching it. And when I learned to knit, and I've just been doing some knitting videos, the whole sock debacle. In the middle of knitting class, I changed from being a left-handed knitter to a right-handed knitter, not even realizing that I was making my pattern backwards. And my teacher didn't catch on that I was making my pattern backwards because I was knitting left-handed and I was having all these problems. Knitting socks is kind of a thing anyway, and I was having all these problems that were because I knit continental style. And Linda, isn't that what you do? I want to say she knits continental too. See,
so
that's the other thing. With knitting, there's different styles.
are you
And it has
left-handed or are you right-handed?
left-handed. I'm left-handed.
Oh,
I
she
crochet right-handed,
uh,
and now I knit right-handed.
oh,
And it was very easy for me to switch over because I'm ambidextrous. And so I just watched my teacher for a few minutes and I'm like, all you're doing is throwing that with your other hand. And instead of putting the needle like this, you're putting the needle like that. So to me, it was just like learning a different stitch.
so
And
if you're learning to knit, if you put it from the back to the front, is that a different stitch than putting it from the front to the back?
yes, one way is a purl, one way is a knit.
Oh,
Okay, so Linda is English style. Crochet left-handed, but knit right-handed. That's right. We had this conversation before.
so what
Because
does English style mean?
I have no idea, but she'll explain it.
Oh,
So basically, when I knit, I'm gonna have my two needles, and I'm holding my yarn because
I like your needles.
yeah, you like my knitting needles. I'm holding the yarn is over here on this side, and most people the yarn is over here on this side. And so I'm feeding my yarn. This is my working yarn over here. And I think that is continental. And then when you're doing it English style, you're holding it over here. And so what I was doing is would have been my working needle, and I was working like this, throwing my yarn. So I would pick up my stitch, throw my yarn, and pull it off. And now I'm going from this side and throwing it like that, and it's much easier. It's actually much easier.
So if I'm crocheting, I'm trying to think. I'm right-handed. So I'm crocheting. Am I crocheting right-handed? Would I knit right-handed?
What hand are you right-handed?
Yeah, I crochet
Yeah.
with my right
Yeah,
hand.
then
And I would
learn to knit right-handed. Do it the correct way because you will be fighting with all your patterns if you're doing it
so
left-handed.
if I'm watching Linda, she's teaching me right-handed to knit.
Yes, she
Okay.
knits right-handed. She
Okay.
crochets left-handed and she knits right-handed.
That sounds complicated.
That's yeah, our little brains. And I don't know well because my grandmother taught me how to crochet and she was right-handed, so that's how she taught me. And I'm very ambidextrous. I bowl right-handed, I golf right-handed, I cannot eat with my right hand. I eat left-handed. Um, I write on a chalkboard left-handed. I write left-handed, but and I think part of it is just because of living in a right-handed world, I was just able to do it.
Hmm.
I don't know. I absolutely don't know.
As
Oh
long as
my
the
goodness.
end results, you're getting something done. That's all that
That's right.
matters.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It is it's just like any new I cross stitch left-handed. I hold the needle in my left hand and off I go.
I think I do everything right-handed. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just so excited to learn how to knit. I have to do it so I can tell myself you did it.
You
And
did
that
it.
so many wonderful socks and
Oh,
sweaters, and it's like, oh come on, just do it.
yeah. Taylor, yes. I do that with golf. I can putt from either side. So I don't like the lay here. I'll do it from the other side. So okay, Linda throws her on. Continental knitting is you're holding it on the left side. Yeah. Ambidextrous, right. Obviously, Linda's ambidextrous also. Wowza. We have been chatting for almost 3 hours.
See what happens when you get together.
That's it. You get us together. And I always tell people, oh, my shows are about an hour long. And then I look back at them. There's never been one that was an hour long. But I always tell people, and some people have a real tight schedule. And I'll like, okay. And I don't think I even asked you. I go, what's your timeline? You need to be out of here at a certain time. But usually if they do, they'll let me know. And I go, okay, I'll let you know when we hit an hour. And then an hour will come. They'll go, no, I'm okay. I can stay a little longer. I think for sometimes it's an out. It's like, okay, how awful is this going to be? This is going to be boring. I don't want to do this. And so they want that out. And then we get in here and we're just sitting and chatting, having a cup of tea and talking. And
I told you this was the first day I had at home, a full day at home, and I don't know how long. And I said, it's just so nice not having to walk out that door every day. Yeah. I said, if I could just have several days in a row, can you imagine how much I could get
how much you
done?
get done? Yeah. Well, and I'm going to be stuck in a car for 7 hours on Thursday. So I've got all my projects all lined up in a row, and I'm getting to where I can see the light at the end of the tunnel on 3 projects, maybe even 4. Yeah, I'm taking 4 projects with me. I'm not taking the Christmas blanket, but I might, because I'm going to have 2 solid days where I'll get at least 5 hours of crocheting done. And I know I'll finish this. I probably will finish that. And I'm hoping to get a good solid getting through it on my 3rd project. So I'm super excited to have just crocheting time because it's like you said, there's so many other things where we can't get to the actual thing we enjoy doing, which is the crocheting. Yeah. But goodness, this has been an absolute joy visiting with you.
Like 3 hours.
Yeah, I know. We're at 2:52. And I really hope that you'll be able to pop into bingo sometimes.
I am definitely going to try, but I want to thank everybody who stopped by today. This was so much fun.
So much fun. And I hope that I'll be able to have you on again in the future, Miss Glenda. It's been just an absolute delight.
Anytime.
Thank you so very much. Linda, stay on. I want to talk to you for just a second afterwards. Linda, thank you very much for popping in with your knitting help. That's been great. And all of you guys who came in and joined us today. And I've seen some names go in and out. I am just so thrilled when anybody chooses to spend some time in here with us. I know there's 1,000 channels you can watch, and I feel very blessed when you decide to spend some time with us. Make sure you hit us every Monday night for bingo, And even if you just come in, we play 3 games. So even if you just make it for 1 game, that's fun. And then tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock Pacific, we're having the second round of our mosaic class. So make sure you pop in. Peppermint, I know I'm going to see you there. We're going to figure out how to do that border. I haven't touched my border, so I'm excited for tomorrow. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.